Hello everyone, my name is Philip, and this is the re-upload for episode 3 of the Backslog. Just like last time, if you would like to hear the entire reason as to why we are uploading these again, then you can go over to the first episode and hear it in full. So for today's episode, we have the Indiana Jones... I was about to say trilogy. It's not trilogy. What is it for 5 movies? Is it pentology or... I'm gonna look it up. Yep, it's a pentaology. A phrase that I'm sure everyone says all the time as opposed to trilogy. So yeah, this is the first pick of Zen's, and it was actually a very spur of the moment pick from what I remember, because what was happening was that for the Disney debate that year and the yearly top 10 lists that Zen, Cat, and Doug often do, they had to cover Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Problem was, Zen hadn't actually seen any of the Indiana Jones films, and so she went through all of them, had a fun time doing so, and was like, hey, why don't we do a Backslog episode of Indiana Jones? And I was like, I'm fine with that. I haven't seen some of these movies in God knows how long, and in some cases, I haven't seen them at all. Like, I had never seen Kingdom of the Crystal Skull or Dial of Destiny. Dial of Destiny was very recent, to be fair, but like I hadn't seen them before, so it was a very fun experience for me to both go back to and experience for the first time all these movies. I had a lot of fun going through these movies, and it's kind of how I want to structure a lot of episodes of the Backslog going forward, as far as taking multiple movies and going through them one by one. You can see that in the next episode as well with Tifa's grab bag, in that we tackle about like 3 to 5 movies per podcast, and we just go from there and we give our opinions on them in about like 20 to 30 minutes each, and it leads to a lot of fun conversation. I love going through the process of watching the movies in preparation for the podcast, because compared to the Fate streams that we ended up doing, these episodes, like episode 3 and 4, were much easier to just sit down, watch the movies, and then prepare for the podcast in that way. And that's a lot of what we want to do. Obviously, we're going to do a lot more than just movies. There's still a lot of TV shows I want to show, both Zen and Tifa. There's a lot of there's some games that are on the shorter end that I think we could probably squeeze in. We will be restructuring how we do our picks going forward. I'll explain more of that when we get to episode 8, the first new episode after all the re-uploads. There's a slight different way in which we are going to be handling picks that should hopefully allow us more time to consume the media in question and then come back for the podcast to give our thoughts. But again, more on that when we get to it. Aside from that, the only other thing I wanted to mention was that a thing looking back on this podcast that I wish I had done better was I was taking a lot of my opinions from the reviews I did on my Letterboxd account, which I don't mind myself doing. It's just there are points where I really stumble because of it, and I really wish that I had prepared myself beforehand. It was just very on the fly. It's like I oftentimes need like something written down by myself to like really get my opinions across better, and I really wish that I had known beforehand that I was going to do that. Otherwise I would have prepared better in that regard. So yeah, that's a little like unfortunate looking back on, but like I still think the podcast ended up coming out just fine. So that being said, I'm not going to waste any more of your time, and I hope you guys enjoy the video. That's your cue, Tifa.
Hello. sorry. I thought this was like the second episode for some reason. Sorry. Okay. Hello and welcome back to the Backslog, where we talk about stuff that we watched. We are joined by Philip.
Hello everyone, I have got myself a vodka cruiser, and I'm ready to get into rants with with these guys about Indiana Jones and shit, so I hope you guys are thoroughly entertained.
And also joined by the Ghost Bunny herself.
Hi, I'm Zen, and I'm tired because Phil's fired.
By the way, I had to mess around with the audio for everyone, particularly Tifa and Zen, because I'm doing the new thing that OBS is allowing you to do, where you can separate audio channels for like different windows, and I I had to mess around with the audio a lot, like on their end because it was too quiet. So just tell me if their audio is like peaking or sounds a little too like. But yeah, basically just if like if it's peaking, then let me know just so I can alter it. Let me know how my audio sounds if it's like about as equal as theirs is. I'm just testing stuff out here. It's still gonna be a little messy, like it was for the first 2 episodes, but it's okay. It's still a new it's still a new podcast. We're still getting into the swing of things.
Also, apologies
Either
in
way,
advance
you're still
that...
fired. You're very
Also-
fired.
Also, apologies in advance that if you hear like dogs in the background, those are from my neighbor. He has two wiener dogs, and I'm like, can they just not bark, please?
No, they must bark. It is the Twilight bark. But yeah, I'm doing pretty good today. I had some electrolysis. It was a bit of a pain in the neck today because they're doing the neck and
So it's literally a pain in the neck.
yeah. But today we're talking about Indiana Jones, so like that's something new.
Mm-hmm.
Da da da. Da 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 da.
Also, I can't recall if I asked you this prior to us watching the entire series. Have any of you seen any of the Indiana Jones entries prior to the two of you coming to California and experiencing the Temple of the Forbidden Eye in Disneyland?
Well, I didn't even experience the Disneyland ride, unfortunately, but I have okay. The way I was introduced to Indiana Jones as a kid was that I first experienced it via the Lego Indiana Jones video game because my friends had the Lego Star Wars games, and when I saw that they were making one for both Batman and Indiana Jones, I was like, oh, okay, well, Lego games. And obviously I knew Batman, so I was going to get that one. But I also saw that they released one for this Indiana Jones guy, and I was like, who's Indiana Jones? And so it wasn't the main console version I got. It was instead the Nintendo DS port for the game that I ended up getting. And it was through that I became acquainted with Indiana Jones. And from there, I did, not immediately, but later down the line, I did end up watching both Raiders of the Lost Ark and Temple of Doom on television. This was before I was even a teen, so I was very much like around 10, like somewhere between like 9 to 11 years old when I saw these. I want to say like on the earlier end, like 9 or 10, just because that would have been closer to when Lego Indiana Jones had actually come out. So I want to say it was around that time period. So yeah, it's literally been like almost 15 years since I've seen either of these films, because I watched these on TV. I never sought out to like go and watch them again. I remember liking both, but that was also ages ago. So coming into this, I was watching Last Crusade, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and Dial of Destiny all for the first time. But even Raiders and Doom, I was basically watching with a much fresher perspective, even if I knew what was going to happen. How about you?
What about you? Yeah, sorry.
So my history is kind of unique. I remember as a kid seeing like bits and pieces of clips from television, but I didn't really see anything outside of going to Disney World and going to the Indiana Jones live experience. I think I must have been very young, but I remember seeing them recreate a lot of these scenes live, and they were done really, really well. So that was actually really fun. But, as a kid, my parents never showed me the movies. As far as I recall, I don't remember them showing me any of that. So flash forward to like, I want to say 5 or 6 years ago when I went to Disneyland, California for the first time. And I went on the Indiana Jones ride. Those are my only experience with Indiana Jones. I'm watching all of these for the first time, basically.
And how about you, Tifa? What was your experience with Indiana Jones like before this podcast?
Well, I can't necessarily remember when I first saw the films, but I was quite young. I still remember having the Temple of Doom VHS whenever I went to visit my grandparents when I was very young. So I also knew about the first one, Raiders of the Lost Ark, because uh, surprise to pretty much nobody except for those of you who maybe don't actually know, I had a thing for snakes when I was a kid, and whenever I wanted to watch Raiders of the Lost Ark, I always fast forwarded to the scene where Indy and Marion are stuck in the Egyptian tomb with the snakes because I was like, snakes. And the rest of the movie was just boring to me because hey, you have a kid with ADD. She just wants the action. She wants the action.
Yeah.
Hence why when you asked me about previously before this episode, when you asked me about like my history with Indiana Jones, the comments that I told you that, oh yeah, I used to watch Temple of Doom a lot because I thought it was like a fun ride. It was similar to the ride at Disneyland, and I grew up with that ride as well. So that's why I pretty much knew about like the changes that they made to the ride, except for our most recent cruise when we all went together last summer.
Video
also, speaking of the ride, so
sorry, just want to say, video on that coming soon in about 2-ish months.
Yeah, and before you continue, Zen, I also wanted to say that I don't recall ever seeing Last Crusade when I was a kid, but I watched it later on when the trilogy was like on cable, because they made like a special about like, oh, the Ark, the Holy Grail, and blah blah. They might have been a thing and blah blah. It was a thing. I think it was on the History Channel. I can't recall. And of course, I saw the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull in theaters when it came out. I thought it was fine. I thought it was like a fun romp. And rewatching it again, we'll talk about that later. And when Dial of Destiny came out, I did not even bother.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I remember my thought process with Dial of Destiny is I saw a report being like, oh, the premiere ended with Harrison Ford being given a standing ovation, and I was like, oh, that's nice to hear. Dial of Destiny comes out. It is critically panned, and everyone's saying it is about just as bad as Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and I'm like, oh, that's a shame. I guess I'll watch that later on. To start off... Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, fun story about the ride. It must have been, I think, 2012 or 2013 when I first went down to Disneyland, and I met up with Rosen and Doggins and The Wire and some jerk with the camera. Basically, all these people for the first time. They took me around to see the rides. We went to the Indiana Jones ride. Thing broke down, stuck in the line. And much like what happened this last time that we went, we were just like, let's wait. And we started singing Bohemian Rhapsody in line. And as we finished, the ride started back up and we got to go on. It was great. We have it on camera.
They got sick of your singing. They're like, please, just end the singing. Start the ride back up.
So that is on our Facebook somewhere where we're just singing Bohemian Rhapsody, and it was a lot of fun.
Nice. Now, to kind of start this off, I want to begin this by basically, I know usually when you would do a discussion like this, you would want to save your ranking for the films for the very end. But given the fact that there's only 5 movies and like a ranking is very, arbitrary anyway, I feel like it kind of be good to start this giving our rankings of each and every single one of the Indiana Jones films to kind of just preface what we think and like, going to discussion.
Because Phil's wrong. Phil's wrong.
No, I am not in fact wrong. I am the most right out of any of us here. But anyway, Zen, why don't you give your rankings for each of the movies and absolutely stun our audience with one opinion in particular.
Okay, so let me just pull up my Letterboxd account here. I started a Letterboxd.
I should do that as well. Hold on.
basically Phil's like, you should get a letterbox to keep track of the films you watch. And I'm like, okay, and it helps me like rate them and whatnot. So I'm just gonna pull up films. There we go.
I mean, I can tell you your ranking just right here and now because I've remembered it like very clearly.
Let's see. Rating.
future-
Sort by
for future
not
re-
release date.
For future reference, Letterboxd also makes you allows you to do lists, so you can make like both non-numbered lists for any reason that you would want to, and then also numbered lists that you can like rank things by. You know, so if you wanted to make lists like that, then you can very much do so.
That's the average rating. Zenith's rating. There we go. There we go. Okay. So the top is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Mm-hmm.
Surprising no one. That's the most safe bet there. But right underneath it is Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Jesus Christ, Zen.
And then below that, just below that, is Raiders of the Lost Ark. And then Dial of Destiny and Temple of Doom is the last.
Yeah. We'll get to that in a second. Tifa, what about your ranking of the films?
So I rewatched them again because, of course, we had this episode planned last week, but because many of us were either feeling ill or whatnot, we decided to move it to this week. And so I rewatched the movies, and I recall telling you how my current ranking was. But then after rewatching them again with more attention, I switched one entry to another area, which you will see right now in our chat.
Sorry to cut.
Sissy. No, how dare you? How dare you?
Sorry to cut you off, Tifa. I just want to really say something that Rosa posted in chat. He's like, to paraphrase Stephen A. Smith, the opinion of Zen, who was on crack.
Okay, listen, I am not on crack. I will defend this. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is a good movie, damn it.
Yes, it is.
Look, I'm not gonna be. I mean, I will be harsh on Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, but I'm not gonna be like too harsh because I do think people are overly negative about it. But like, better than Raiders. Come on.
I have my reasons. You sit down.
All right, Tifa, go. Continue with what you're saying.
Okay, so my rankings, it was originally a different one, which my fellow co-hosts can see in our own private channel. But for the purposes of this podcast, my ratings are as thus, going from highest to lowest. The Last Crusade.
Yep.
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yep.
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Dial of Destiny. And Temple of Doom.
That is a respectable order.
Nearly identical.
Nearly identical.
Yeah, nearly identical, except she didn't make the crack decision in the middle there.
I'm gonna say, okay, you know what? I just got done playing Sonic CD on Bun Plays, where we had aliens. And you know what? I'm not saying it's aliens, but it might be aliens. So...
And my ranking of all the films is Last Crusade at top, duh. Then Raiders of the Lost Ark. I will say, for both the number one and 2 spots, as well as the 3 and 4 spots, respectively, I had a lot of back and forth. Like, it was actually really tough to rank like the top 4 movies to me, because Last Crusade and Raiders kept battling it out for me, and then the next 2 kept battling it out for me. But like, my ultimate ranking is Last Crusade at top, then Raiders of the Lost Ark, bit of a power gap, but not too deep, and then I'd say Temple of Doom, then Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, then a wide fucking power gap, Dial of Destiny, and we're gonna get into that when we get to that.
What? How is Doom that high? How is Doom that high?
Again, I debated between Doom and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and like, they're both flawed movies, all right? They're both flawed movies, but they're also both movies I found some sort of enjoyment out of, and I found a little more enjoyment out of Temple of Doom than I did with Crystal Skull. But that's just me.
My poor, insane wife.
You're the one who rated Crystal Skull so high. You have no right to talk.
So you excuse...
I have every right.
You excuse...
I have every right.
I know what you're going to say, Tifa, and no, I do not excuse the racism, and I especially don't excuse Willy.
Well,
like...
I was going to say, you excuse chilled monkey brains over freaking time travel.
No, listen.
Time travel.
Listen.
We should probably get into the movies. I'm gonna say right here, like, one thing that I want to say getting into it, I do want to have good discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not have 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm capping us at 30 minutes max per movie, okay?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree full-hearted.
Completely agree.
With that, yeah.
So,
Before we
can I start us off with Raiders before we start? Yeah, okay.
But before we start, I just want to say one teensy weensy thing. I love you.
I love you guys too.
I love you too.
What
Now let's discuss about how Phil is wrong.
Actually, yes, Rosen.
Let's discuss about how they're wrong. I love you all, but Rosen tweeted that we have baffling opinions.
Okay, so Rosen is asking, oh, what the fuck? Hold on. It's saying I'm dropping frames. 1 second. You guys keep talking. I'm gonna go on stream and see what the fuck it's talking about. 1 second.
I don't know what it means for dropping frames. We don't have frames. You're a frame.
We're in the frame between frames.
The space between spaces.
Oh my god.
Oh god. Okay. So I'll wait a little bit for Phil to come back just to double check this. But I do want to start us off with Raiders because I need to explain my kind of thoughts on Raiders because I know it's a little bit baffling, but once you see how I kind of started, you'll see where my destination lied. And it's not aliens, but I'm used to aliens and time travel. So. I mean, we have technically had aliens and time travel in this franchise. So Sonic has just gone through all the Indiana Jones tropes before Indiana Jones.
Alrighty then.
Phil.
I'm back.
Funny. Oh, I was gonna say like one tiny like bit of funny haha little kid brain trivia of mine when I was a kid. I can't recall when I first got onto the Temple of the Forbidden Eye ride at Disneyland, but I do remember one of my earliest experiences from it that I firmly believed that the animatronic of Indiana Jones in the ride was the actual Indiana Jones.
They do be pretty good. What did you already say, Zen? Just so I know where we've gone already.
I haven't started yet. I was waiting for you. So I want to start us off with Raiders because I want to set the stage for my exposure to this. Obviously, I talked about, the Indiana Jones experience. And we had the ride where, Rosen can attest, we sang Bohemian Rhapsody. We got the ride to start working again. That was my exposure to it, aside from pop culture osmosis. The problem is, Raiders of the Lost Ark is one of the most beloved films in Spielberg's history. And because of that and cultural osmosis, a lot of it didn't...
I would say it's one of the most beloved films in, pop culture history ever.
Yeah, and because of that, I feel like the impact is lessened. The way I say it is this. I love Alien, but it's not horror to me because I know what's coming because of cultural osmosis. And a lot of that happened with Indiana Jones. It's like the opening scene with the temple, great, but I've seen it. A lot of the action scenes are done really well. It's just I've seen it in so many different forms. So a lot of the impact to me was lessened. And the big things for me that brought it, I ranked it at a 3.5 stars because it started out as a 4, but as I slowly went on, the cultural osmosis, it just didn't have that impact for me. And it has 2 climaxes, and there's this weird submarine scene that I really didn't think needed to be in the film. And then there's sexism and slight racism. Now, hear me out before you say anything.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to sexism and the racism, yes, this is set in the 1930s, but I don't like my hero being the one to do that. Now, I saw this video that Phil showed me where it's going against the perfect hero trope at the time, and I get that. I like that he's always on his ass. He gets hit, he gets put down. A lot of the action is great. But when we have this entire scene where they're in a pirate submarine and there's just no, she's mine, and everyone's pining over this one woman, and it just there's parts that got uncomfy for me, especially because Marion, while the best character in the indie films for female representation, was way too young when it started. It shows Indy dating as students. It's a little bit squicky for me. And while there's not that much racism in the film, the shot where Indy is running away from the tribesmen, that was a little bit much for me. Ace Ventura mocked that sort of thing. So it's I can't rightly call it a bad movie. But these little things just kept irking me as I was watching. It's I'm sure if I saw this with no cultural knowledge of this, I would have put this higher. But because of these little things bringing it down for me, this is why I put it at a 3.5 stars, and why I think it's, while a great film, I had trouble watching it.
Here's okay, so I want to read out a few chat messages as well, just because I noticed when we cut out the intro in post, the live chat replay doesn't stick around. I'll have to debate in the future whether or not I want to start cutting out the intro, just because I like people being able to see the chat. But with that, so I'll just read out some chat messages that catch my eye anyway. Rosen says it's worth mentioning that this entire franchise is based on the serials that Lucas watched as a kid. And yeah, fun fact, not just that, but Indiana Jones was he originated by the fact that Steven Spielberg always wanted to direct a Bond film, and he was, just unfortunately he never panned out that way. And he was explaining this to George Lucas, and George Lucas said, "Oh, well, I'm making this character right now. I've been workshopping this character for 10 years, who's kind of Bond-esque, and so would you want to direct, the film I want to make about him?" And that's how Raiders of the Lost Ark ended up becoming a thing in the first place. So Bond has always been there within Indiana Jones's within his the way he was brought up. So we'll keep that in mind just for the future going later. I also love Jacob Martin says Indiana Jones and the British Museum reparations.
You belong in a museum, Indy.
And then Troy says that effect doesn't work anymore, so they instead use projection mapping to make the center door different. Wait, what? Oh, I was going off his first one. The first one is that the hold on, no. Okay. Let me just see where he starts. Okay, fun fact. The Indiana Jones ride in Disneyland has 2 broken / non-functioning effects. The first one is that the 3 doors that lead to the different treasures is actually just one door that moves the facade to make it look like you're going into a different door each ride. The effect doesn't work anymore, so they instead use projection mapping to make the center door a different door every time. So that's really cool.
Yeah, that is very true. I do recall when I started to notice the shift in the doors. back in the day before the projection, you could see that you were going either to the left, to the middle, to the right doors, and each one was either knowledge, treasure, or eternal youth. And when we went there together, it was my first time seeing the one with the projections, and it was kind of disappointing in my opinion. But I do recognize that it's for maybe budget cuts, or just to like, hey, we're getting
Yeah.
all of these problems, so we're just gonna do this and just stop worrying about it.
The second effect is that that is permanently broken is that there was supposed to be ice that drops from the ceiling when you get to the main showroom. That's supposed to be rocks that got blasted. Okay, gotcha,
Mhm.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the topic of Raiders of the Lost Ark, I can absolutely see why someone would be squeaked out by elements of this film. You know, like there is moments of racism, not as much as the next film, which we will get to, but you know, there are still moments there. Features in the, you know, like having like basically having implied to like have had this relationship with his student while she was like in her mid to late teens. Meanwhile, he was like in his early 20s. So that's unfortunate. Here's the thing.
That's a lot, and that's not the only scene where his student hits on him in his class too.
Well, yeah, but that's his student hitting on him and him not like reciprocating that, you know. Like, and I when it's a student having a crush on a teacher, I don't necessarily mind that, because it's like, I think most of us have been there where we've had a crush on one of our teachers. So it's like, that's not really a thing I hold against. But like, here's my thing about it. Like, I understand not wanting your hero to be someone who does that. I've always viewed Indiana Jones as an imperfect character and kind of a bastard. Like, when you look at all the films
Yes, he is.
put together, he is quite a rat bastard a lot of the time. And I feel like it, you know, it doesn't make Indy like a great person, but like, I also don't consider him a bad person. He's just someone who has grown up within like throughout the early 1900s, and, you know, is... And I think also Last Crusade does help in this regard to kind of like explain away some of Indy's early characterization, in the fact that, you know, he's not a great guy. He has a lot of great ambitions, and he does have morals in which he sticks to, but he also isn't like above doing what he thinks is right in a moment, even if what that thing he thinks is right is really, you know, skeevy and disgusting a lot of the time. So, and like, this is even like addressed when he first meets up with Marion, where he's like, you know, like, you know, you used me, and like it was gross, and it was wrong, and she's right, it was, but it's something that, you know, Indy has to like grow to move past and like get better from, and, you know, whether you think he does or not is completely up to you, but I'm not against that element being in the movie entirely, if just because I think the time frame like helps it in terms of setting and giving a good justification for it. I don't think all of it quite pays off. Like, you know, the tribe that chases Indy in the beginning, I do think is very yikes by today's standards, but it's like, what?
Yeah, and part of the reason I don't like the tribe too much is like, yes, it sets up Belloc, but they don't come back. The tribe itself does not come back.
Tribes that don't come back. Gee, what foreshadowing for Crystal Skull. Anyway.
Pretty much.
But yeah, so like, I get where you're coming from. At the same time, it's not, for one thing, I do think that, like, you know, it's not as egregious because of the time frame or the time period. I also don't think is that it's as egregious because we don't see as much of it in this first film compared to the next one. And I think that there's so much more that's just amazing and really smartly put together in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Because I love Raiders of the Lost Ark. I think this film is fantastic. And there is so much that is just absolutely smart and like perfectly put together in this film that keeps it in my good graces, as opposed to like something like Temple of Doom, which I enjoy, but there's also so many problems that I can take with it, you know?
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of good. I do have to say a couple good things, a couple bad things. Alfred Molina, Doc Ock is here.
Yeah.
He should have been in more of the film.
He's gone.
And he's gone. I thought he did a great job. But what really gets me is that I like Steven Spielberg. I think he's a great cinematographer. I think this movie has very basic cinematography. Comparing it to future indie films.
Well, I can't.
Oh.
I can't exactly say I agree with that fully, because I will agree that this film doesn't have a lot of like big breathtaking shots, and like comparatively to other films it could be like seen as a little more subdued, but if anything I kind of like that about it. In fact, I think I list this on my Letterboxd review of the film, which I'm currently just skimming now. All right, here's
I just felt like go on, sorry.
It's okay. Here's the paragraph I had, kind of just talking about like all the nice intricate details the film has. It's like, not to mention all the miscellaneous details that go into the movie. I love how smartly constructed every scene is. Like Indy's shooting the swordsman he was about to show off. Well, that's not cinematography, but there's yeah. All right, yeah. It's well shot cinematography which relies on shadows and slow pans to keep an air of mystery and suspense throughout. Yeah, like there's a lot of really nice like techniques that are used here. Like I like how we begin not showcasing Indy's face, how it keeps us in suspense like until the moment where like he counters the guy that's about to shoot him. I love how we I love how like every scene has this air of suspense like and build up with the camera. I like the scene where it's like he's looking down into the tomb where there's all the snakes, and it pans back up to like him lying down, and he's like, why do it have to be snakes? It's like, it's not extravagant, but I don't think it needs to be, because it's like slow and meticulous, and I love how it pays attention to the shadows and like the suspense as opposed to like the grandeur of everything,
I can see where you're coming from. A couple counterpoints. First of all, yes, it doesn't show Indy's face, and I get that that's a trope. I like it. Except the first thing we see of Indy is his ass. That's the very first thing. It focuses on his ass.
Look, I didn't notice that it was specifically his ass when the film started, so I don't think it's that big of a deal personally, but you do you.
That's what it starts on. Just as Indy's ass walks into frame on. I just think it could have been done better, and it has been done a little bit better in future indie films. I think a lot of the smaller shots are done better. It's just a little bit too static for my liking. Whereas, like, later on with Crusade, each shot is sweeping, panning, but also has a thematic feel to it, like, to what they're talking about, where they're talking about, like, his father's religious leanings, and then they have a picture of Jesus in the background, in the gray, like, it's,
Last Crusade does look very good. I think my big problem with Last Crusade, as far as like the visuals are concerned, I think it's a little too obvious, like what parts are are green or blue screened, and like and which parts are not, which I think it doesn't hurt the film in a big way, but it does slightly, like in terms of like me preferring the look.
It's a lot easier to tell now that you have modern equipment, but yeah.
I mean, hell, it beats the shit out of fucking Crystal Skull and Dial of Destiny, the former of which is a disgusting blob of CG, and the latter of which is a dark, muddy mess of a film, but that's beside the point.
Yeah. Also, we also need to take into consideration that, of course, this was like in terms of Raiders, it was the first outing of this adventure. Of course, it's gonna have like things that it will later on polish, like the characters or the story beats and so on and so forth. There's I wanted to wait until way later when we talked, like, for example, up until Crusade or even Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, to mention Cinematherapy, who tackled like Indy's character, about how the character needs to become more vulnerable due to his father's negligence when he was growing up after the death of his wife. and how Indy pretty much became an asshole. And excuse me, and
Okay.
how because his relationship with other people and even with his dad in Crusade, in the Last Crusade, that how he slowly lets people into his life and starts to show off vulnerability, and that's a good sign. It takes him a while, but but it just comes to show you that Indy is not perfect. Yes, he's a swashbuckling hero for many people, but he's flawed. He's not perfect. He's not like the epitome of this is what it means to be a man of adventure. It
Eliza,
belongs in a museum.
Eliza says in the chat, Spielberg was trying to frame it like an old adventure serial and films from back in the 40s and 50s. Yeah, and I think he mostly succeeds at that. I think that framing really adds a lot to it, and I think, like, sure, by today's standards, it's like we're used to more extravagant grandeur. I really like how slow paced it does feel, and like, and you know, bring it back to feeling like something from the 40s and 50s, which I really like.
Excuse me. Oh God, hiccups. Sorry.
Alrighty. So before we move on, Tifa, any thoughts, stuff you want to add?
Well, I do want to say this. It was it's similar to you. It was surprising seeing Alfred Molina as like the guy who would later like, oh, I betray you, yay, and then ends up dead. And it's like, oh, hi, Alfred Molina. Oh, bye, Alfred Molina. And also, I believe, and I think it's also thanks to cinema therapy that I know this, that the whole situation about like, oh, Marion and Indy's relationship about how he took advantage of her when she was young and innocent. In one of the books that later came out, they kind of retconned it with saying like, oh, she was in her early 20s, hence why she's like, I was just a child, and it's like,
yeah,
hence why that phrase rings like hey, stranger danger.
Stranger
Yeah, that the phrase implies it, and that's the problem. It's like, I know later media retcons that,
yeah,
but it's squicky implication.
yeah, it is very squeaky,
Even
and not to mention those implications mean drastically different compared to now, compared to back in the day. Like how, oh, she was just a child. For us right now, it's like, oh, she was a minor. Ooh.
even
But
still,
back in
I
the day,
will.
I do not know if it was the same implications, but maybe.
Even still,
Then
I will
again,
say,
I wasn't born back then.
yeah. Even still, I will say, I do love Marion as a character. I think she, by the end, is probably my favorite indie girl. Because Willie is like, no. I jumping the gun here. I don't like Helena from Dial of Destiny, and then I was really into Elsa from Last Crusade until they do some stuff that I was kind of iffy on near the end of the movie. But so yeah, I would say that like Marion is probably my favorite indie girl. I like how competent she is most of the time. I love the scene she has with Belloc, like the two scenes where like they're in the tent and she and you know, and she hides the knife and she pulls it out and Belloc doesn't even have like a big reaction. They both just laugh, like as if to say like Belloc was like, haha, you outsmarted me. Like he kind of like hand waves it like, okay, yeah, you got me, you can go. Like not even, because his face when like when the Nazis came in was like that of surprise. So I don't even think he was like hand waving her so she can go be taken by the Nazis. I think it was genuinely like, ha, okay, you got me there, you could go. Like I love that scene so much.
Like there's egg on my face here.
Yeah, and going into that, I think that like now that I'm done the entire like with all the films, I think I'm I think I can safely say that Belloc is my favorite villain in the entire franchise. I love Belloc as a foil to Indy, and basically someone who, because we were talking about earlier how Belloc is, oh sorry, not Belloc. We were talking about how Indy is someone who is, you know, not a bad person, but is a very flawed individual, and he is someone who is always teetering on the edge of like being a shit, like of being a bad person, of being evil, and like not in the sense of like, not in a stereotypical way in which you'd see nowadays of like, oh, he's going towards the dark side. And why did the music stop playing? What the hell? Keep going, please. It asked, like, are you still watching? Yes, YouTube, I am still watching. Please keep going. And so, like, you know, but yeah, so Indy's, like, always on the verge of becoming evil in the sense of, like, he's someone who is in a field built around a lot of skeeviness, and it's good that he always has his, he always has his moments of, like, you know, oh, where I was going with it, sorry. The YouTube thing threw me off. He always has his moments.
Yeah.
It's
kind of like people used to say, like, armchair archaeologist is like, you walk around with a Bible in one hand and a pickaxe in the other. It's like, most of the people around this time that were looking for artifacts were doing it for the fame, the fortune, and screwing up a lot of finds and stuff like that. And so, like, Belloc represents the evil that already exists. What people think the grave robbing Indiana Jones is, even though, as he later says, it belongs in a museum.
Yeah, he
no, it belongs to the people.
He's someone who has his morals, specifically because if he didn't have them, he would become like an evil individual, which he, you know, is against becoming. So I love Belloc because he represents who Indy will become if he doesn't become careful with, like, who he is. Also, I want to point out, Rosen said he was gonna have to head out, but remember, 7 minutes until movie 2, Indiana Gyms and the Temple of Dimple.
I also, I'm gonna wait until we talk about the next film for me to point out something regarding what you just said. But I'm gonna say it anyways. Temple of okay, so technically Temple of Doom is a prequel because it happens before Raiders of the Lost Ark. So with that movie, I'm gonna say it later. But my thoughts on Raiders was that it is a cool, like, beginning adventure of Indy in terms of, like, filmography. And also, I'm a bit biased because, hey, I had an Egyptology phase when I was younger, and I was like, yay, Egypt, bitches! And the whole, like,
Egypt, bitch! Dun,
the
dun,
whole,
dun, 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 dun.
That's the Imperial March.
Well, that's a joke that Linkar does, because every evil can be traced back to ancient Egypt.
Ah, okay, I didn't get the joke. Okay. So I found it to be like a cool, like, flick. I do agree about, like, Marion being, like, the best girl in general, and how she is also very smart, and she is one of those stepping stones for Indy to start being vulnerable to people and not just be like, hey, you're just gonna be a means to an end, so I'm just gonna go along, blah blah blah. And how she's not just your typical, like, damsel in distress compared to another character, but the one phrase that I have stuck in my head when I rewatched the movies was, remember when Marion was getting kidnapped after the whole, like, oh, you brought a sword to a gunfight moment with Indy?
Yes.
How she just screams, you can't do this to me, I'm an American. And I'm like, oh, honey, oh no,
you can't do this.
No.
This is America. I thought this was America.
I was cackling so hard, being like, are you fucking serious right now? You're not in America, bitch. Nobody cares that you're from America.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I thought this was America. No, you're in Egypt. You're in Egypt.
God. It was so damn stupid. I was like, even back then? Even back then? But yeah.
God.
Also, so with that, we can proceed to Temple of Doom. I also wanted to mention, I don't know what you guys think of Big Bang Theory, but I do remember the episode where Amy Farrah Fowler pretty much destroys the series.
Oh,
especially the first movie.
This argument. All right, let's get into. I figured we didn't need to do this, but all right, if we're gonna bring it up, then yeah, let's talk about this.
No, like I just found it funny because I remembered it. I'm not saying like, oh, she had a point. No,
yeah.
I just like oh, if Indy never found the Ark, the movie would have just progressed as usual, and the Nazis would have still gotten killed anyways.
Yeah, a lot of people use this, I don't know if I'd say a lot of people, but there are people out there who will use this against the movie where it's like, oh, well, Indiana Jones is completely superfluous in the movie because the Nazis would have found, you know, the Ark and, like, they were gone killed and everything would have just happened in the way that it did. And my argument to this is well, first of all, like, I don't think that okay, first of all, it's a whole debate of whether or not they would have trailed, like, or whether they would have gotten to Marion, if Indy hadn't gone to them, to her first, because, like, they were trailing Indy, I'm pretty sure, to get to Marion. But even putting that aside the point, it's like, oh, well, you know, this is a flaw with the movie. Not really, because what it makes up for in terms of, like, Indy impacting, like, you know, what the Nazis are doing in the plot, it's also, like, this is a very character-driven movie, and without Indy there, you lose all the character. Also, second of all, it's like, you know, oh, what was the point I was gonna make? Shit. It's like
it's stupid for me because, like, I didn't get the arc at first because, like, they do foreshadow it pretty well about, like, maybe we shouldn't open it. But when the Nazis opened it and melted their faces, I was like, wait, what? And then after talking it over with Phil, I understood it. Like, you know, they thought they would be able to use the power to get rid of their foes. Bellic was tricking them, the whole thing.
Yeah.
I get it now. But at the same time, if Indy wasn't there, the Nazis probably wouldn't have gotten it. You know, like, the whole thing is they were following each other. It's a race to find this artifact. That's the entire point of the film.
Yeah. Anything else we want to say before we move on to Temple of Doom? Because I think it is right about that time.
Well, for me,
no.
my last thoughts would be you get to see Nazis getting exploded.
Oh yeah, the action scenes in this film are pretty fucking fun. It's you know, we have, you know, the fight with the Nazi, like, by the plane. We have the car chase. There's some fun action set pieces in here, and I do love the face melting effects by the end of the film. I will say, my only problem that would make me rate it, like, you know, a 9 out of 10 as opposed to, like, a 10 or whatever, and maybe consider this, like, a perfect film or whatever. Well, there's no perfect films, but, you know. I'd say my only problems is that, like, the pacing does feel a tad slow, like, after, like, the midpoint, and I feel like, you know, like Zen complains about something like that, it does feel like there is, like, a second climax that we have, like, added on top of, like, them returning.
This film has more endings and climaxes than Return of the King.
No, it doesn't. It has, like, 2. Like, that's an over exaggeration. No.
Yes,
I'm joking. I'm joking. But in my defense, like, my final thought is that I think it's a good movie, close to being great. It just, there are little things that add up for me. Like, I feel like there shouldn't have been so many climaxes. The truck scene, that whole chase, the fight, that could have been a climax in and of itself. And it's like, if they had cut from that to him trying to destroy it and being lured into helping, you know, until the Nazis getting it back, that would have, I thought, made a great climax. Instead, we have this boring sub scene where, I'm sorry, this is the one scene where my suspension of disbelief went to 0, because how did they not see him inside the ship if he disguised himself? And if he didn't disguise himself, like, it's a submarine, was he plaguing on the side? Is he Aquaman?
We live in the Nazi submarine.
You really have to suspend your disbelief with a lot of stuff, especially with what we see in Temple of Doom and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. But
I know, I didn't know about that stuff before that, so, like, this part was a little bit much for me. I think overall there's some classic scenes. You know, it brought a knife to a gunfight, and, you know, there's some really classic stuff. I just don't think it quite achieves full greatness.
For me, I do think it's at that level. I think just because, like, of how well everything comes together. I like to describe it as, like, a film where every scene feels like a mini like a mini moment in of itself, just because of how well there's like setup and execution like from beginning to end. And I think this film probably has the best cast of any of the films. I feel like I love every character. Sala is great, Belloc is great, Marion is great. The only other thing is, like, aside from the pacing issues, I do think that Marion in the third act should have known that, like, hey, Indy wasn't trying to just like betray her and like take off. He was trying to help her out. And I feel like her like saying like, oh, you backstabbing son of a bitch and whatever, I think like, okay, that's a little bit much, but that's also a nitpick. But otherwise, I really love how well put together this entire thing is. And Harrison Ford, you know, after seeing him not give a shit about a lot of roles nowadays, to see the one character who he cares about the most and like just how much he puts into the performance, even in Dial of Destiny, where he's obviously older and like there's a lot, you know, there's a lot that compromises him. Even then, you can clearly tell he cares, you know.
A little, yeah.
But yeah, now let's go on to one of the more divisive entries of the bunch.
Temple of Dimple.
Yeah, let's move on to Temple of Doom. And I think I'll let the two who don't like this movie speak before I get into it myself.
I shall let the Bun Buns take the helm this time.
Also, to those in the chat, please drop down below what you think of Temple of Doom as well, because I'm very curious to see the opinions we got in the chat.
Okay, so picture this: I watched the films all on Disney Plus.
Same.
Within like days of each other. First film, like, all right, that was pretty good. I didn't have too much trouble watching it. There's some small problems, but like, you know. Either way, I was having fun. People say Temple of Doom is the divisive one. I'm just like, but people still like it. Some people love it, so I put it on. It physically pained me to watch Temple of Doom. I kept pausing, and I had visceral reactions to Temple of Doom. It made me angry. It made me sick. It like I had to keep stopping. It took me over 4.5 hours. I wasn't even planning on live tweeting at the time. It was only after this film that I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna start live tweeting like these stuff as I go. And it started off as like, okay, like I'm gonna bring it maybe down to a 3, but then Willie was in the film, and Willie is awful. Willie is the worst Bond girl. It's not even an indie film, it's a Bond film.
To also be clear, Zen's going off of like the Letterboxd star rating system. I just go off of a numerical 10 out of 10 system. So that
the star rating is a thing in movies, Phil. It's been a thing for a while.
Well, yeah, but I like going a 10 out of 10 system anyway.
But yeah, I was thinking like initially it's close to middle of the road. It's not as bad as like the Little Mermaid live action, right? And then Willie brought it down a full star. So we went from 3 to a 2, and then like there's so much racism and so much bad and like so much that I just didn't enjoy. And the thing that really got me is like starting it out, I thought I had put the wrong film inside the player. Even though I was streaming this, I thought I had put on the wrong film. I had to stop, be like, wait a second. Racist Chinese people, why are we, what's going on? And it's like the whole, and it's like when Phil explained to me that, you know, Indiana Jones was based on James Bond, I'm like, I can kind of see it, but like when I think of Pulp Fiction hero, like he's more an explorer, an archaeologist. Bond's a spy. It's very different for me. So when I see him walking, instead of like the fedora and stuff, like grizzled, he's wearing a suit, and he doesn't feel like Indy for half the film until like they get into this doesn't feel like an Indiana Jones film to me. Like, this is a Bond film.
I disagree with that personally, but like I'll get into it in a bit. You can finish your point.
This to me feels like a James Bond film with the serial numbers filed off. One of the weaker Bond films, to be fair. And it just, until you get to like the Maharaja area, like there was so many points where I was just like, wow, like just this is just wow, like, it's so bad. Tifa.
Okay, so this is what I wanted to mention, that I was like, oh, I'm just gonna wait until we reach to Temple of Doom. Okay, so Temple of Doom is technically before Raiders in terms of like the timeline. This is like in the 30s, and then you get the Raiders, and then Last Crusade, technically. So, going by what I learned through cinema therapy, is that hey, because of what happens in what we are shown with how Sean Connery was pretty much a bad dad. Indy grew up to be kind of a dick, and he was.
Well, you know what? I blame Trebek for Sean Connery being a bad dad. I mean, it was his fault.
And so, Indy was going down the same road as Belloc, being like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna be a legitimate Tomb Raider and just get money and just do the thing because I know about this stuff and blah blah." And it's until the end of this movie that he takes those steps to being the hero that we recognize him to be. Hence why he's like with Lao Che, with like, oh, I brought you the thing, where's my money, where's the diamonds that I want, and blah blah. And how he gets tangled up in the whole situation with like the magic stones that this Indian village needs in order to survive, because those are holy stones and blah blah. I still do not excuse the freaking racism in the fucking movie over like that, like like interesting character analysis on Indy, because it's like, okay, you got a little golden nugget in there on top of a pile of turd.
And that is one big pile of shit. And here's the thing. I can definitely see where other people are coming from, especially what you're talking about. Like, it is a good start to Indy. It does feel out of character until I realized it was a prequel. And I'm like, okay, they're building up an arc for him, and that makes sense. There's some ideas here that I think were really good ideas. You know,
Yeah.
having it be a darker film to question his faith, and that like he went down the wrong path, and stuff like that works out. But like, then you have the scenes with the monkey brains.
Okay,
And
one of our mutual friends, Ethan, he would tease me with the whole like chilled monkey brains whenever I tease them over over spiders and such. And I'm like, no, you leave my monkeys alone.
Oh god. God, I need more alcohol for this. I just finished my vodka cruiser.
Oh no.
So
I'll take it. Well, do you want to get more alcohol? You can get some.
I'll get some in a bit. I wanted to at least start off my point. So okay. So when it comes to this film, Temple of Doom's a hard one because like I knew going into it that there was going to be a lot of yikes. Like I'm not stupid. I could see how much really terrible shit is in here. And I will say, like, just prefacing this, you know, we're gonna get to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, we're gonna get to Dial of Destiny, we're gonna get to all that. I will say that while I don't like Dial of Destiny at all, and I think that Crystal Skull is a slightly worse film than this, I will say that Temple of Doom's worst qualities, that being its racism and Willie, are probably the worst aspects in any Indiana Jones film ever. And like, they suck, really. And like, I was getting through this film and I'm like, okay, so this opening's pretty good. Like, I actually do like the Bond style opening. I think it's a fun way to introduce Indy in like a different way. Adding to the fact that I think that I actually appreciate how much like not like Raiders this felt. Because I think it sets the precedent of like, okay, Indiana Jones can be a lot of different things. It doesn't have to just be, you know, the like raiding tombs and like, you know, going out and doing stuff like that. Like it can be something different, like going to this, you know, palace where like we, you know, we see this like hellish cult and stuff. It's like I do appreciate this film for setting in stone that like Indiana Jones films don't have to just stick by one template. We can go in many different directions. But after that beginning, I will say that it starts to go downhill, like, as we're making the trek from, like, the Indian village all the way basically up until they make their way down into the temple and, like, see, like, the cult performing their, like, you know, voodoo shit. Between that stretch, like between them trekking out to like get them their stone back, and until they traverse down into what's basically hell, that stretch of the movie is terrible. That stretch is legitimately awful. Because
the middle is so awful, and I'm gonna let you finish. I just want to say, like, there's a stretch of the movie that's a lot of nothing happening. They suddenly go to the Maharaja's palace. They showcase that the Maharaja is a child. They have the dinner scene. Then they go immediately from the dinner scene to the worst romance in history with Willie and Indy. And
There's
then
no romance. They
he
were
gets
just horny.
attacked.
there is no romance. Like they try to set up something between the two of them, and it doesn't work. It feels
It doesn't
were
go
just
anywhere.
so forced.
But
It is so bad.
But then we go immediately from that to him being attacked, to him going into a room, to him feeling the statue's boobs, and finding hidden passageway. So much of this doesn't make sense to me.
Like, it's like the logistics of even how they find the room isn't the problem for me. The problem for me is just literally we spend scene after scene on developing the non-chemistry between Willie and Indy. Meanwhile, Willie adds nothing to the film, and I don't even need, like, I don't even need Willie to be, like, a badass, like, or, you know, actively in the fight, like, you know, like Marion or Helena, or that Elsa, I guess Elsa is, but, you know, we'll get to that. I don't even need her to do that. It's just, like, give her something. Like, give her some agency as a character. Let her do something. But in the end, she's just there to scream and, like, be a damsel, which is the worst quality about her. And it's, like, one of her only qualities, and she sucks. It's like, I know everyone dogpiles on just how bad Willie is, but it's, like, she's just terrible. There's no way to, like, go around it. She's just bad. And, like, the racism is, like, there's no excusing it. Like, you can make some excuses for the stuff in Raiders. There's no excusing this one. It's like
yeah, there's no excusing that.
Especially when the ending of the film comes, and it's like, it's the British who come to help Indy save the day, and it's like, okay, Spielberg.
Yeah,
okay,
that's a lot.
Man. Like,
Let the colonizer
You want to know
save
the
the
point?
day.
You want to know the point where, like, I realized that this movie was probably just laughably bad. So Willie has a couple moments, but the first one was they have the sequence where they're in the plane, pilots jump out, and Indy just grabs a life raft, and she's like, but we're not sinking.
We're crashing.
It's the most laughable shit. And, like, that's when I was just like, ugh. And then I thought back, and I was looking at the movie, I'm like, she worked at the nightclub.
mhm.
She's a singer.
She's
She
a
didn't
pampered singer.
she didn't oppose any of the people there. She wasn't involved in the proceedings. She has no reason to go with Indy. Why is she there? Like, he didn't kidnap her. She just is there.
They just wanted some eye candy. That's my theory.
To quote Shay Frillis, this would have been a better movie if it was just Indian Short Round's adventure, like just the two of them being goofs and going on their fun little escapade. And I'm like, you know what? That would have been amazing, and I would have loved to see.
I know, because like so much of the middle is ruined by Willie. And when I saw that, like the life raft scene and the elephant scene, and I thought to myself, why is she in the film? Because I'm thinking back, and I just like, there's no point where she asks to come. She could have been left at any point.
Yeah,
She's just useless. She's just useless.
Wait, useless? Yes. Sorry, that's a dumb Joseph Anderson reference. Anyway, so I especially don't like her because you'll have a really funny scene going on with like Indian Short Round where it's like, you know, where Short Round's like, you're cheating, Dr. Jones, you're cheating, and it's like, no, I'm not. It's like, you know, and it's like what he clearly is. But then he pulls the card out of Short Round's sleeve, and it's like they're both cheating against each other. It's really fun. They have such good chemistry, the two of them. And then you just have Willie in the background just screaming her head off, and it's like, shut the fuck up.
Shut up. Like, say what you will about Kei Kwan's character being a stereotype. It was the same thing in the Goonies, but I still love his acting. I love his expression. And he works well with Indy, and he's the heart of most of the film when he saves Indy in the end.
Yeah.
So if you had just taken out Willie, I would have bumped this up a lot.
And not to mention, okay, I know, stupid adventure movie, blah 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 blah. But her screaming her head off over, what Indy? Okay, I didn't look this up or anything, but I had like my brain being like, wait a minute, there's something wrong here about how Indy's like, oh, gigantic vampire bats, and I'm like, bitch. Vampire bats are not that big. Those are flying motherfucking foxes. But then again, I haven't checked like where flying foxes are usually located aside from like certain parts of Asia. So I can't really like tell you this is incorrect because of this and this and that. But I can tell you vampire bats are not that big. And it made me go like, Spielberg, you're failing your biology lessons.
And they filmed a lot of that in Sri Lanka, and like I had to tilt my head at a lot of that stuff, and I'm just like,
and a lot of people got very sick during the filming of this film. This film had a very cursed production cycle, not as bad as Jaws, but it was still a very cursed production cycle. And yeah, I gotta feel bad for a lot of people on this film. But with that said, the reason why I still rate this movie positively is, for starters, I do like the beginning of the film. I do like the way it starts, and then
Anything goes.
I don't, but like I get it.
And then the second half comes around, and I will say, I love how the second half is basically one big descent into hell. And how Indy and Short Round and Willie have to get out of there. And I love the fact that, like, you know, we see Indy succumb to the evil, and like how Short Round has to snap him out of it, and how that's basically the moment where Indy, you know, basically takes on board the help he gets, and like and I won't say he's like 100% loyal to like everyone going forward, but like he, you know, if you help Indy out, then like you can be damn sure that he will help you out in return. And I feel like this moment with Short Round is the start of that. And also the second half just has a lot of great action. Like that's the main reason why I bumped the second half of the movie up, is like the second half is a really fun romp. Like that's the best way to describe it. It is a really fun romp, and I have a hard time not enjoying myself in that second half. And there's still issues. Again, the British coming in to like help Indy. But like, you know, I really like the villain, even though, you know, there's nothing really to Moulin Ram. Like, he's not like an in-depth villain.
He's well acted.
Yeah, he's very. But
he's well acted.
That's the thing. He's very well acted. He has this like great presence to him, like this really nice, like this really fun aura to him as a villain. And it's what boosts him up for me because, like, you know, while yes, like Mola Ram has nothing, you know, that's like in depth about him or like, you know, or as interesting as Belloc, because I view this as not a great film, but just a fun romp, I think Mola Ram fits that aesthetic really well. And, you know, and if nothing else, Harrison
You
Ford
know who
is,
he
like,
reminds me of? And since some call me Johnny just... Some call me Johnny just did a video on the Sub-Zero mythologies. He reminds me of the live-action Quan Chi.
Yeah. That is a really good comparison, actually.
Like, it's just, he's not very in-depth, but, like, he's fun. And that's the thing, like, I will agree with you about for me, the first 2/3 are bad. I don't like the first third because it feels like a different movie entirely. The second third is just boring. But then the last third is a great roller coaster. And there's a lot of stuff I like about it. And Mola Ram being the Quan Chi of this franchise is fun. It's just, I don't want to have to slog through all of that.
Chilled monkey brains.
I get the defense for that dinner scene, by the way, in the sense of like, oh, well, they're purposely being disgusting in order to like freak out these dumb foreigners. And like, I get that, but the way in which it's framed is not depicting that at all. And I think that like, it could have been handled so much better. Like even just some throwaway lines insinuating that would have helped a whole lot, but you know.
Kind of like how M'Baku spooks oh god, what was Angela Bassett's character named? The Queen of Wakanda in the first
Ramonda.
Ramonda, thank you so much.
And he was more so spooking fucking Bilbo Baggins.
He was spooking.
He was more so spooking
he was spooking all of them because all of everybody knew about how like the Jabari were like these like very threatening people, but then M'Baku just like plays with them, being like, "I will feed you to my children," and it's like, "Nah, we're cool. We're vegetarians."
Yeah,
like that's funny. But here in freaking with the freaking like, oh my god. Okay, so I mentioned previously, I love snakes.
Yeah, there's no insinuation that there's no insinuation that they're not like that they're just messing with them. Also, sorry for interrupting you, Tifa.
It's okay. Like it's just okay. Everybody, you guys know that I love snakes, and just seeing them being used for like, I don't know if it's like the snakes were dead, and you see the guys like opening the snakes up for like live eels and have them eating them, and I'm like, bruh, fucking really?
What's even the point? You're not eating the snake part, so why have? Like what's it's so weird. But the final third has some really great stuff. I don't agree with the voodoo, because I don't think voodoo is a practice they would have.
Voodoo's it's not voodoo. It's not voodoo. It's just cult shit.
But
just call it cult shit.
It's just cult shit. But like a lot of the shots, a lot of the way it's filmed is really good, especially because the color work, scenes, the sets, great. I love the minecart sequence. This originated the Donkey Kong Country stuff, so like this is where it came from. There's a lot of really good stuff.
I will say the cinematography.
It takes a while to get there.
The cinematography in this film is probably my favorite cinematography in any Indiana Jones film. I love the way this film is shot. I love the grandeur on display. You know, this is the exact opposite of Raiders as far as like the way it's shot, because Raiders is very slow, meticulous. You know, like cinematography. This film goes for that grandeur. It goes for like the wide, big, sweeping shots, you know, and it's like, I love a lot of moments about, I like the close-ups on some scenes, especially when it's the spike trap and he just goes, "We are going to die," and like I love that scene so much.
We are going to die.
It's so stupid.
I did what you said, Indy. I put my back against the wall.
Like you told me to not touch anything. I just leaned against the wall. But I do have to agree that like a combination of both Willie's whining and also Short Round being a little bit loud, but then again he is still a kid. It did get on one's nerves after a while, but then afterwards you're like, okay, with Short Round it's a little bit endearing because he's still a kid, and of course you hear a little bit of the how he and Indy got together and like in terms of like partnership. But then afterwards it's like, okay, Willie, shut the fuck up, shut the fuck up. And as a kid, I of course remade the whole like Kalima Shishakide scene with my sister.
Yeah.
Like me trying to just emulate because it looked cool. Like as a kid, it looked cool. Now as an adult, I'm like, this is so fucking racist. This is so fucking racist. This is so fucking racist.
To get things wrapped up on Temple of Doom, what would you? My rating for it's about like a 6 out of 10, like 3 stars. Zen's already said she's like 1.5. What would you say? And we lost Zen. We lost Zen.
We lost the bunny.
What would you say about your thoughts? What would you say about your thoughts, Diva?
Well, when we were preparing Zen to watch the movie, I did say in our chat that it is a roller coaster of a movie, but it had its problems. As a kid, I loved it because it was fun, it was an adventure compared to the slow pace of Crusade. Hence why when I was younger, I was like, Crusade, no, just show me the snakes because I liked snakes. And with Doom, I watched it a lot because it was fun. As an adult, I can still see those fun elements, but I cannot see past the racism. I can't remember where I heard this. Maybe it's from the person with the spectacles that we will not mention. I think it was from them that I heard that it was Steven Spielberg's reply to his movie Losing to Gandhi. And that's why he had like a hate boner towards Indians. I have no idea. I have no fucking clue. It's been a very, very hot minute since I've heard about that, so I could be like 90%
it's a rumor.
wrong.
I'm not entirely sure. Like there's a lot of stuff that's kind of like different about it, especially because this was done when Lucas was going through a really bad divorce, and this was.
And Spielberg said.
Well, it didn't happen to me.
Spielberg sadly wasn't very far off from that either.
He wasn't very far off, and he eventually would date and marry Willie.
That is a big.
But
I mean, who knows? Her actress is probably fine. Like, you know, it wasn't her fault that she had to run around screaming like that.
Either way, my final thoughts from this is that as a kid, I can see Doom being fun, but as it is now, there's just so much about it that I don't enjoy. That when I get to the parts like the final third that actually is enjoyable to me, it takes everything out of me. I'll watch the minecart chase sequence, or I could just play Donkey Kong Country and get the same experience.
You can play Indiana Jones. You can play Lego Indiana Jones. You know.
Or I could play Indiana Jones on the NES.
Also, before we move on to the Last Crusade, I just wanted to mention. You gotta go first. You gotta go first. Sorry.
Yeah. We can't gaslight.
You're not allowed. You're fired.
We can't gaslight people into thinking that all of us thought Temple of Doom was horrible. But yeah, so I
gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss.
But yeah, I still enjoy this film. Am I going to say that it is an amazing film? No, sorry, no, I will not. It is very flawed. It is a film where you need to trudge through a lot of shit in the first half in order to get enjoyment out of it. And I know that's a tough ask, which I do get, but I will say that this film has enough enjoyable moments in it and enough about it that makes me go, all right, you've won me back over, to make me not excuse the racism in Willie, but like to make me put them to one side and kind of and be willing to slog through that stuff so I can get back to that darkness in the second half and like the fun action and the amazing cinematography that's throughout the entire film, as well as the chemistry between Indy and Short Round. And that right there is my main thing. It's like, because you can have some amazing cinematography and some great action, but at the end of the day, if you're not enjoying the characters, then like that's a big foul. Where Short Round is not in any of the other films. And I know that if I don't rewatch Temple of Doom, I'm not going to see Short Round like in an indie film. And it's like, so that right there is all I need to come back and rewatch this film. Plus, also, the climax is really fun. I love the scene on the bridge. I love him cutting the rope. I like, he's not,
Prepare to be Kali in hell.
He's not nuts. He's crazy. I love the scene so much until the British show up, but, that's beside the point. So, yeah, I like Temple of Doom fine enough. It's not a great film, but it's okay. It is a film of very, very low lows, but very enjoyable highs. And that's my final thoughts on it. And yeah, and then you can go ahead.
Go ahead. I just wanted to mention, it also pointed out by Cinema Therapy that when Indy is like ready to just leave the village before going into the Maharaja's palace, being like, why should I bother like getting myself involved and blah blah, and then he sees like one of the children who managed to escape, but still like it's like in very bad condition. You see freaking Indy's whole demeanor change on a fucking dime, being like, wait a minute, no, this is actually something serious. I do need to help these people.
Yeah.
And it's like, damn, son.
I do like that scene, especially when like Short Round is the first one to come to him after that. I really like that scene. It's really good, damn good. And now we move on to the film that I think we're gonna have the least amount to talk about, because I think we all agree that like, yeah, this film's fucking great. I don't think there's gonna be like too much to discuss here. We got Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Best indie film, hands down. Now here's my thing. Okay, coming off of two films that did not agree with me, I'm like, do I even like Indiana Jones? I was like, we'll see. And then I watched this and I'm like, okay, John Rhys Davies is back as Sala in a starring role. Sean Connery is his father. Harrison Ford doing his best life. I'm sold. And it's just like this film has the perfect blend of comedy and action out of any of the Indiana Jones films. Because it does lean heavily into the comedy, but there's also there's a brilliant scene where his father makes him go back for the journal.
I will be right back. I'm gonna go get some more alcohol.
No.
But yeah, there's a brilliant scene in the middle of the film where the journal that his dad made to find the Holy Grail has been stolen by Nazis, and they aren't gonna go to get it, but his dad makes him go get it, and they go to a book burning. They have to blend in, and Hitler is immediately right there, and like they have this whole scene, and he goes to Elsa, who turns out to be a Nazi, and he's just like, she's like, I don't agree with their ideology. It's like, I don't give a damn what you think. It's like, because you see them burning books, like you stood for everything that the Holy Grail is not for. Like, there's such a great scene, and then the humor immediately happens where they try to get away, and they accidentally have Hitler sign
back in front of him.
Hitler's in front of him, and he has to sign the journal that would have helped him find the crusade, the Holy Grail. And it's just like, this film does a great job of poignant character scenes, of showcasing why these characters are important. The drama and the darkness of Doom without going too far, but it has lightheartedness. I mean, like, his father's catchphrase is "This is intolerable," and he keeps going around, and like they have the scene where like the plane crashes through the tunnel, and then the bomb goes off right in front of them, and they aren't rattled at all. It's like it's a very funny movie, but it's also very powerful and poignant, and I think Crusade does a great job of towing that line, making it fun, a fun pulp movie with a message.
Yeah. I also love the fact that the movie starts off with Indy as a child, but you don't think it's Indy until you get to see this one grave robber who looks pretty much beat for beat like Indy until you see his face, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, I thought this was Indy. No, this is somebody else. And how later on you see that, yeah, this might have been like a step for Indy to go down the dark side, but because of what happened after Doom and after Raiders, he keeps the whole like, hey, this belongs in the museum kind of shtick, which yes, I do agree, but at the same time, it's like, bro, you're taking away people's like history here. What the fuck?
Yeah. I like, first of all, rest in peace to that actor. River Phoenix, I believe his name is.
I do not know.
Let me just look that up.
Oh, you mean
quick.
the character who played Indy when he was younger?
Yeah, young Indy.
Oh, okay.
Indiana Jones actor.
Last Crusade, young.
I am back.
No, I don't want.
What?
Oh,
Do you know who
okay.
played young Indy? Was it River Phoenix?
Was it River Phoenix? I have no idea.
I gotta look this up 1 second.
Gotcha.
Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade.
Yes, it was. It was. Yes.
It was River Phoenix. So rest in peace to him. Just great cast as Indy and great job. We were just talking a little bit about how I started talking about how the film is great because it balances out the poignant scenes with like the humor. I talked about the book burning scene and how like it goes immediately from really great drama to hilarity, and it does it with relative ease.
I'm just fixing up the audio a little bit because I did realize we might be peaking a little bit, so I'm just setting it down a teeny bit. But otherwise, it sounds mostly good. It sounds better than it did before, at the very least. We were too quiet.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
You're too quiet.
but to give my general thoughts on the film as a whole, I really like this film. There's only maybe like 2 things about it that I take a little bit of an umbrage with, but like, you know, and that make it a little more equal, like on equal footing with Raiders for me. But overall, I really loved Last Crusade. I mean, I think my points for the film are everyone's points for the film. You know, it is, you know, brilliantly acted. The action scenes are really fun. I think that the I think that the plot of Indy trying to trying to show his dad, you know, or like wanting to his dad's attention and like, you know, showing him, you know, the Grail and like bringing it back to him to like get like validation from him. I think that's all amazing stuff. I think it's the best paced Indiana Jones film. I think it's like just top to bottom such a fantastic movie. I think that there's not much I can say.
It has my favorite villains in the franchise.
See, okay.
Nazis.
See, okay. That's my thing. That's my thing that kind of makes me put it down about on equal footing as Raiders. Because I was gonna say, there's not much I can say that others haven't already said about this film. That needs to be said. I will say this about it. I think the villains are its weak link. Not to say that they are bad. In fact, I was really liking Elsa. I think Elsa is a really fun villain. But I think I'll read my I think I'll read my bit about it. I put on my letterbox review just to more cohesively get this across. So, I think Donovan is a good villain for the narrative, but quite frankly, I don't think he's gonna stick in my mind past how he dies. And to be fair, he does have a really fucking memorable death. Like, I could see myself, if I had seen this film as a kid, I would have freaked the fuck out. And I wasn't even that affected at the, like, I was slightly affected at the ending scene of Raiders of the Lost Ark, but I wasn't overly scared, because like I had my grandparents to be like, you know, oh, it was like a balloon that they suctioned in or something, and so it's like, okay, but I knew if I saw this as a kid, I would have been freaked the hell out. But here's the thing, he just doesn't leave the same he doesn't have the same level of connection to Indy that Belloc did, or the same amount of presence as Mola Ram. He's fine, like he's a fine villain, but he just doesn't hold a candle to Belloc. And while Elsa fares a lot better, and while, you know, okay, hold on, let me read exactly what I've written here. Elsa fares a lot better, to be fair, but while I love the chemistry she has with Indy while she's faking her allegiance, and the overall story that she cared more about finding a prize over caring for anything to do with the Grail, I don't like how more than a few scenes beyond her betrayal show her continue to pine for Indy. And I don't even think she's faking it, because she continues after the point where she's already gotten the Grail in her hands. And it's like, why do you care for Indy? It's like, why are we even establishing this as a plot point? Especially when, like, Indy is still shown to have feelings for Elsa, despite the fact that, like, you know, he starts out being like, oh, you sold yourself out to the Nazis, like, who gives a damn what you think? And then by the end, he's like, oh, Elsa, honey, take my hand and stuff like that. It's like, when did they start having feelings for each other again? It's like, that I felt was very rushed. I think that I liked Elsa for the first 2/3 of the film. I like her when I quite frankly, I love her, like, openly being for Indy's flirting. It's like, oh, how dare you kiss me? Immediately goes in for a kiss. I love their flirtatious nature. I like her even still when it turns out she's like, you know, she's with the Nazis and she's like all evil and such. I think that twist works pretty well. That's another thing I didn't like about Donovan, is I didn't like I didn't think the twist with his character was all that surprising. I'm like, oh, he's a villain? Yeah, it's kind of okay. Yeah, that's not very surprising. But like with Elsa, it was like, oh, okay. And so I think that she, you know, like when she's like evil, she works. I just didn't like the element of like, oh, she really like actually has feelings for Indy, like, you know, post us learning that she's a Nazi. I think that's very, very rushed. But I think the main thing beyond that is that I don't buy that Indy would still have like that stronger feelings about her as well. I don't mind her, you know, still like, again, I like the plot where, you know, she, like, you know, I like the plot where, you know, she like cared more about finding a prize over anything about the history of the Grail and stuff and such. I really like that element. I just don't think they fully realized her connection with Indy by the end. But that really is my only main problem with the film, because other than that, the only other thing is, like, I think that the action is better in the first two films, because you can tell where...
I would disagree there. I would disagree there.
Well, not to say the action in this film is bad, because I really like the action in this film, especially like when Sean Connery's like, you know, opening up his umbrella back and forth to have the pigeons fly into the plane. I think that's very fun. I think there's a lot of really good set pieces, and the climax especially I really like, and like showing Indy like try to prove himself. I really like that aspect, but I think that you know, I think that you can absolutely see the seams a little more than the first two films, which makes me prefer the action in those films more than this one. But other than those elements, like, everything that people have already said about this film basically holds water. It's just fantastic.
It's a fantastic film. I would disagree a little bit. Like, I do see some of the green screen when they're flying in the plane or when they're on the tank, but a lot of the tank action is great. And I want to bring up a villain that you didn't bring up. The guy who dies in the flaming tank. Like, one of my favorite villains because...
Yeah, what was his name?
I don't know his name. But
Hey, don't
And
laugh
the-
at
My
it.
point exactly.
I don't remember his name, but like he was chasing Indy throughout the entire film. He was a Nazi. He's a bad guy. I liked Elsa a lot because like of the whole like she was chasing after a prize, not like anything worth feeling. And I like the death that Donovan had. So like altogether, I this is my favorite indie film. I don't know what to tell you, Phil. I think you're wrong.
I mean, what do you mean you don't know what to tell me? I agree. This is the best indie film. I have a hard time saying it's not. It's really damn good. What about you, Tifa?
All right.
Well,
Tifa.
I do like how I'm just gonna keep repeating like, oh, you should watch Cinema Therapy because it talks about the vulnerability because it does bring into that because it amplifies the whole character of Indy about how he progressed through his life, and especially the scene where they're in the blimp with Sean Connery and being like Indy is confronting his dad about like, hey, you were a lousy father, you weren't there for me when I needed you. And Sean Connery is like, did I tell you to go brush your teeth? Did I tell you to pick up your toys or whatnot? Did I tell you to go to school? No, because I respected your privacy. And what did that teach you? Self-reliance. And I'm like, bitch, really? He had to learn that by himself because he learned very early on that he couldn't rely on you, and that the both of them couldn't have like a normal conversation between father and son. And when Sean Connery is like, okay, well, we're here, what do you want to talk about? And Indy is like very caught off guard, but that is exactly the point. He wanted this for so long that once that he now has it, he doesn't know what to do with it because unfortunately that the moment that he wanted is fucking gone. Like what he wanted is not necessarily there.
And the depressing part that
It is depressing.
The depressing part that Crystal Skull brings into question is that like we even by the end of the film, it's like he and his dad are now on good terms, and we can only assume they go on to like have a lot of really heartfelt and like and emotional conversations with each other and like get to live life together like finally. But we know that like just a few years after this, he would end up losing his dad. Like at most I think maybe like 10 years, but like that's still in the grand scheme of things not too much time. So it's like you really gotta feel for Indy by the end. It's like it took him his lifetime to like get his dad back, to like getting him to get his dad to like accept him and like and be there with him, and then he loses him not too long after, which is really sad.
Yeah, it is. And it's like, how many of us wanted a moment like that with our own parents or a family member that we trusted to a certain point? And when I saw that scene, I felt so like it was very relatable because so many people who have cut off their family members because of similar moments, excluding the Nazis, excluding the alien. How many of us wanted to confront our parents? How many of us wanted to tell them that the whole like giving me food, giving me education, like getting me like a roof over my head is just the bare fucking minimum, when what they needed was emotional connection? Because in the movie we hear that after the death of Indy's mother, Sean Connery just dove into his investigation over the Grail, and that was his obsession. It was his coping mechanism / distraction. Hence what made him a lousy dad. He did teach Indy certain things, but not the things that were essential, like an emotional connection. But to be fair, it was a different time where doing that was not manly, was not considered something masculine. When it's like bitch, really?
Yeah.
So
I
I still love that scene because it's what so many people wanted to do themselves and would react the same as Indy when they finally get that chance. You just don't know what to talk about.
Mhm.
But I do love how that is another step for both of them to have a bit of a relationship better than before, because after I think it's a little bit later from this scene when they have to escape from the blimp and they reunite with Sala, with the tank and everything, and how it explodes. And Sala, excuse me, hiccup. How Sala and both Sean Connery are like, "Oh my God, Indy's dead," and you see Sean Connery finally like realizing, like, "Hey, you lost your son, not only your wife, but now your son," and he's now like regretting everything and being like, just 5 minutes with him would have been enough. Like, finally fucking realizing his wrongdoings.
Mhm.
And then, of course, Indy being comedic as being with the comedic timing, being like,
Just
"What are we looking at?"
looking over the cliff. I really love that. But yeah,
And Sean Connery hugs him and being like, "Oh my God, I thought I lost you, boy."
Mhm.
And
Now onto
but
the
then-
Grail.
Yeah, onto the Grail, and everybody's like, "Wait, what? We
I-
had
I-
we had
I-
an emotional connection there."
I will say, I think that Last Crusade is by far the funniest movie in the series. I really love
It's the
it.
funniest. It has so much heart, and it has some of the most quotable lines.
Mm-hmm.
You chose.
I'm sorry, they got us when he accidentally shoots out the tail of the
I don't know why this scene gets me of all. Hold on, I'm just adjusting the mic a little bit more just to make sure I'm not peeking, because I really don't want to fucking be peeking on the mic. I think that
Stop peeking. It's not Christmas yet.
Yeah, I think that my favorite line, for some reason, I don't know why this line gets me of all things, out of all the things in this movie, but like it's when he's like doing the puzzles in the it's when he's doing the puzzles in the place where he's getting the Grail, and he has to spell out Jehovah on the tiles, and he comes to his dad, who's like, "Oh, but like, you know, in this language, you know, like Jehovah is spelled with an I," and he just goes J, and then falls right through. And I think that's I don't know why that got me laughing so much.
It's fun.
I love that whole scene, especially when they like showcase the deal behind the traps or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Any case, we should probably move on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we need to talk more about Last Crusade, considering just how absolutely
It's
great
good.
it is. It's just good.
Good.
It's just
We could
good.
stay here for another freaking hour talking about Crusade, but we need to progress.
Mm-hmm. Now,
I need to sleep at some point, but
yeah, now onto the two films that came out decades later, after the point where people had already moved on from the franchise. Now we come to, first up, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Let's start with the lady who is mad enough to put this above Raiders.
here's the thing.
Missy, what?
I think Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is a good movie. Is it perfect? No. But like the biggest thing is like a lot of it is just so fun. In the first half, a lot of people were like, "What about the nuke in the fridge, man?" I'm like, did you not see them ripping the heart out of a guy? Did you not see them riding a raft to safety on a mountain? Like, what part of this is realistic? If you have to hand wave it away, the Holy Grail gave him immunity to radiation or something. I don't know. There have been worse things that happen, and it's just like, fine. Then we get to the aliens, and you know what? Look, we've had different artifacts. We've had different religious stuff. We saw God. We had proof that the Holy Grail had mystical powers. Why not aliens? Like, it just... I get not liking the whole ancient aliens created ancient civilizations thing, but it's a pulp novel. It's supposed to be fun. Say what you will about Shia LaBeouf, he's not a good person, but he's a really good actor in this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he did a great job as Mutt. I think there's a really great connection between these characters. There's an urgency to the film. The pacing for most of it is pretty good, and it just showcases like, all right, we gotta get this going on. And Marion's back, and it turns out that Mutt is his kid, and it really brings the family connection from Crusade back in a big way, and it ends with him getting married to Marion. There's a lot of stuff I love. I love the villain. Irina is so great, and like the Nazis are better to hate than communists, but they say she served as the right hand of Lenin, so she's a fascist anyway. So like
acted by the brilliant Kate Blanchett,
and she's great. Like she has a rapier and whatnot. So like there's some really great stuff. Second half of the movie, yes, it starts going off the rails. I'm not going to say it doesn't, because you have the monkey swinging on the vines and somehow catching up to cars. I was laughing at that. They fall over not one, not two, but 3 waterfalls that should have killed them. There's the ants. The ants just kind of coming out of nowhere. Like there's a lot of stupid stuff in the second half, but it's fun. Like that's the thing. Like I like it more than Raiders because even though it goes off the rails, it's fun. It's enjoyably bad in certain ways. And the only thing that I can really attest to is my biggest problem with the film is that the second half is very clearly like CGI heavy, where the first few films were very much, okay, we have these practical scenes, and to an extent the chase scene in the forest is practical. It's very noticeable CG for the backgrounds, and it didn't need to be that way. But aside from that, like I think there's enough to enjoy about this film, and enough that surprised me where I was just like, okay, I put this above Raiders because Raiders in many ways bored me in parts and squicked me out. Here, even in the parts that some people consider bad, I had fun. I enjoyed myself. I was laughing my ass off when the waterfall scene happened and the monkeys and all that other stuff. And it's just pure fun. It's not perfect. Yes, there's a stupid alien. Yes, they talk about this crystal skull that has magnets. How do they work? Like, it doesn't make any sense, but it's fun. It is all fun non-stop. And there's very little that really took me out of the film. Plus, it has the legendary, late, great Dr. John Hurd.
What about you? What about you, Tifa?
Okay, so as I previously stated at the beginning of this video, that I went to see this film in theaters because I was still in school, and I thought, oh, cool, and a new indie story, and blah blah. And I thought it was fun at the time with a few like problems, and I agree with you that the whole like having the Communist Party being the villains this time around just felt a little bit underwhelming because, I mean, come on, Nazis are perfect for hating and trying to topple, despite knowing that, hey, they will be toppled over. Sorry. But I still like Kate Blanchett's character because she is ruthless. The whole like psychology thing was kind of weird when I rewatched it because I was like, wait, what? Because it's been forever.
Well,
since
you
I watched
see,
this movie.
I'm using psychic brain waves to get the information from you. It's so
Yeah, and
stupid. I love it.
Yeah, it was so stupid. I was like, wait, what? And like we've seen the freaking arc of the Covenant like melting away Nazis. We've seen.
Oh, speaking of which, the Ark of the Covenant is in here. The top men put it away in here, and they don't use it on the communists. I'm like, it's right there.
It's just a, hey, look, remember this, and that's it. Like, even the camera lingers on it, from what I remember, being like, hey, look,
Those
it's the
top
thing that you
men
liked.
weren't very good. I mean, like, if we Naruto Ninja Run all of us together, they can't catch us all. We can storm Area 51 and get the Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, you have freaking seeking God and whatnot, but then and then you have the freaking cultists in India with the whole like Kali Ma Shakti Day, and after that you have the whole the fake Grail will make you.
All right, I'm back. Sorry, I was muted. Sorry, I was muted for so long. I was like, again, like just like freaking doing the audio on the fly. Sorry.
Yeah, did you hear what we were talking about at least?
Not like a good chunk. I heard some of it, but not a good chunk of it.
Okay, so I was saying that I am fine with the whole like alien thing because we've seen so many of the like religious mumbo jumbo bullshit. So the whole like people hating on this because
also yes,
aliens,
yes,
like,
yes, Rose, and we are sticking to half an hour movie. Don't worry.
Yes. So I thought it was okay. I was like, yeah, we've seen more outrageous, outlandish stuff. So aliens is okay.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from that, I just thought that this movie was fine because I at first put Skull over Raiders. I did.
Mm-hmm.
But then I switched it because I was like, well, Raiders it's like the OG, it's the origin, and it has a like good beats. I do see myself seeing Skull more often than Raiders. I do have to admit that.
It's just that also Raiders is like, I look like top to bottom at Raiders and then look towards Crystal Skull, and just like Raiders is by far the most like it is the more well put together movie. I think like from even though I like Last Crusade a little bit better, I do think Raiders is the film that like where every single scene has like a lot of care put into the writing and like the framing, and I think that really helps that film out. Whereas comparatively, I look at Crystal Skull, and I guess to get into my thoughts now that I'm back, I think of the three of us, I'm probably the lowest on Crystal Skull, but that's not to say I didn't enjoy myself, because I still liked Kingdom of the Crystal Skull enough. Like I still had an enjoyable time with it, and I'll say this. The first half of the movie, I was actually really enjoying myself. I thought that the way in which they set up old man Indiana Jones as like as an element in the movie, I think was really welcomed. I think that I don't think that they executed his story all that well by the end of it. I do think that in that first half they had a lot of I think that they set up his dilemma really well, in that like what can Indiana Jones do now in his old age that like, you know, would still like, I think I worded this in my Letterboxd review better than I am now. Hold on. All right, never mind. Okay. Oh no, never. Okay. Like, okay, so it basically had him looking at where he was in his life now, and like what can he accomplish now that he has like, you know, he's moved, like, you know, he's moved on. No, actually no, he hasn't really moved on. He's still doing the adventures is the thing. Like like Dial of Destiny is when he's moved on past the adventures. He's still doing the adventures, but like now he's lost so much, where, you know, his dad is gone, Marcus is gone, you know, and like he's lost so much. And what does Indiana Jones do now that, like, you know, life is going on beyond him? Like, should he hang the whip up? Should he hang the hat up? Like, what does he do now that everything is moving on? And that's where Mutt comes into the picture, and where Marion comes back into the picture, where it's like, you know, it's starting a family. It's like, you know, it's moving on with his life while still, you know, keeping to the elements that make Indiana Jones. And I like that. I think that aspect of the film is really nice. I like that we have Mutt. Like I'll agree to you guys that like I think Mutt is given too much shit by some people. I think that Shia LaBeouf did a more than admirable job in this film. I think that Marion is still played very well. I think the villains, while not particularly interesting, I think that they are played very well. It's the Temple of Doom thing where it's like the villains aren't exactly interesting, but like I like their performance. I think like Cate Blanchett,
they're memorable, but they're not deep.
Yeah, Cate Blanchett does a really nice performance as this film's villain. I think that in general, the first half has a lot of really nice setup, a lot of good exploration, and a lot of fun, like really fun dynamics between Indy and Mutt. I think actually there was a good chunk of this film where it was like, damn, Indy and Mutt might have like some of the best chemistry in the series so far. I'm actually really liking them. It wasn't until the second half where my opinion started to go down, and that's just generally my opinion on the second half in general. I think my favorite parts of the second half is when it's being camp. Like I love, because I already loved the fridge nuke scene for how stupid it is. I will say, Crystal Skull is definitely the stupidest of all the films, and I mean that in a fun way. In a fun way, yeah.
But like it's enjoyably dumb.
Yeah, I love seeing Mutt swinging from vines. I love the anthill stuff. I love all that shit. I will say that camp aside, the second half didn't do much for me because I felt like after Marion is introduced, because we're introducing Marion halfway into the film, we have to rush all the stuff of like, oh, Indiana Jones, you left me and I moved on with my life. Oh, but now we love each other again. I felt like that was really rushed and like didn't really feel natural at all. I felt like the way that they got back together was just really forced. I felt like Mutt learning of Indy being his dad like weakened their dynamic because now it's just like, whereas before it was like a lot of fun back and forths about like, about like Mutt's life and like Indy giving him recommendations on like where he should go. And like I get that the whole point is like, oh well, now that Indy knows that he's his son, like it's changed everything for him when it really shouldn't. But at the same time, it makes all their scenes boring from then on out because it's just Mutt going, don't say you're my dad, and it's just like, back and forth like that. And it's just like, okay, this is kind of boring now. And then we have like the I feel like the biggest like hurdle that it has to overcome, and it just doesn't, is that there is way too much plot exposition in the second half. Like, I feel like for a film that already had a lot of nice setup in the first half, the second half is just like, okay, well now we have to like address like, the skull belonging to like aliens, and like we have to address like, like the fact that like they've been living here, or not living here, but like that there's like 10 of them, yada yada, and like just there's a lot of plot that has to be dumped on us by the second half, and like by the time we reach the climax, and then we get to the ending, and I'll agree that like I think that introducing aliens into this series is not a big deal. I think that like, we've had gods, we've had we've had cults. It's like, I can suspend my disbelief and say like, okay, we can introduce aliens into this franchise. My problem is more so in execution, because I feel like there's a lot of things that Indiana Jones can be. What I don't think it should be is having this like giant CGI clusterfuck of a climax where it's like the ship rising out from underneath and you see like stuff just getting sucked into itself at the very end with this big CGI alien who like doesn't even look intimidating. Because that's the thing, you look at the ending of Raiders and you look at the ending of Last Crusade, and it's horrifying. Like the face melting in those films is like so traumatizing. Meanwhile, you get to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and the alien just kind of glares at the villain. Like, and I laughed when I saw it because he just gives a kind of an annoyed glare, and then her face melts off, and it's just like, oh my god,
stupid too. It's like, be careful what you wish for. Too much knowledge, but like, the aliens did say, oh, we're gonna give you a gift to both like John Hurt and everyone else, and they don't.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
I don't think thematically that it works nearly as well as Last Crusade or as or Raiders of the Lost Ark. I also think
So I will agree with you there, and I think the double twist of the CIA, not CIA, that was dumb.
Yeah, it's like when
it's fun dumb, but like also stupid.
When he reveals like, oh, you know, you dumb son of a bitch, I'm CIA. I'm like, oh, that's kind of neat. That's kind of fun. And then it's like, oh no, he turned out to be a double agent. But even then, even when he turned out to be like CIA, it's like, you know, it's like, wait, hold on. But there were several points in the film where it's like, you were all too willing to kill him. And it's like, so, like, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't add up. And, like, in hindsight, it's like, yeah, of course it didn't make sense. But then you also had the moments of, like, him feeling sympathy and compassion for Indy. And it's like, oh, well, okay, hold on. So those are meant to, like, be setups there to, like, you know, make you think that he's CIA and that he's not actually evil. But now it's a double agent. And it's like, okay, this feels a little stupid.
It's a bit like they had cold feet on that character, because like I didn't see either of those coming, but if you look back on it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Also the CGI, I'm not someone who like usually overly complains about CGI in movies, because if it's good, it's good, you know. Like I can still enjoy the Star Wars prequels, you know, just fine, even with a lot of the CGI in those films being wonky. But here's the thing, because I actually like to compare Crystal Skull a lot to the prequel trilogy, as well as Dial of Destiny to the sequel trilogy of Star Wars, predominantly Rise of Skywalker, which we'll get to in a little bit. But I think that my big thing with Crystal Skull is that when you look at the Star Wars prequels, yes, a lot of the CGI can be wonky in those films, but I think it's excusable in the sense of those are alien planets, and like you can excuse it being a little wonky on the fact that, you know, it's a little weird because it's aliens. But like here, it's still, I mean, it's Indiana Jones, so it's not entirely realistic, but it's still a grounded setting in a realistic jungle and like realistic locations, because it's in the real world, and it's like, you know, it's an Indiana Jones film. It's meant to be at least a little grounded. So when you have a fully CGI jungle and like all this shit happening on screen, it's like, this looks ugly. This looks really, really ugly
on a smart TV, and it's like, you don't see it at first, but then, like, as I was live tweeting, people were like, yeah, that green screen is obvious. I looked, I'm like, that's what's off about this.
Yeah. So yeah, this is why I ranked it below Temple of Doom, because like Temple of Doom has worse aspects about it. Like the racism and Willie in Temple of Doom are definitely worse than anything in this movie. But what helps Temple of Doom is that it's the second half where it just becomes a romp, and it's a fun ride from the point where they go down into where the cult is and onwards. Whereas here, it's the first half of setup that's really fun and intriguing, and then the second half where, even though the second half has some fun bits of camp, for the most part, it's pretty fucking dumb, and it has like a lot of really weak character dynamics and very weak, and just a very weak narrative and very weak themes. And I think that's what drags it below Temple of Doom for me, where Temple of Doom ends really strong. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull ends with a whimper and makes me go, oh, okay, that's why people didn't like this movie. I like the ending with...
At the same time.
Sorry, I just want to finish my point. It's like, I do enjoy the ending where, you know, Indy gets married to Marion, and Mutt, like, you know, it's like, oh, is Mutt gonna be the new Indiana Jones? And Indy's like, hey, give me that hat back, you stupid kid. I like that ending. And, you know, the only other thing for me is, like, John Hurt is a little wasted, but, like, I also enjoyed seeing him in complete crazy mode, but I do wish we had gotten a little bit more of him as, like, the bit more of a serious character that we see at the very, very, very end of the movie. But, you know, that's me.
At the same time, I just had so much fun with Skull.
Yeah, I get it.
Doom, I can't enjoy so much of the film, and yeah, it ends strong, but you have to slog through so much. At least a film that ends with a whimper had that fun throughout most of the film. So for me, that's why I like Crystal Skull. Tifa.
It's a fun romp. I do like the whole scenario where before Indy knows that Mud is his kid, it's like a mentor mentee kind of situation until he learns that Mud is his son, and then starts acting as if he were a father, being like, how dare you get out of school, when at first he's like, oh yeah, Sunday school is not for everybody, but if you're my kid, no, you gotta stay in school.
I think my favorite line is like, if you want to be archaeologists, you gotta get out of the library.
And
yeah, the film definitely has a lot of funny moments. I definitely think this is up there with Last Crusade as like one of the funnier Indiana Jones films. It was like really enjoyable. Like there were some really fun lines all throughout. And I will say this, beginning to end, Harrison Ford has not missed a beat at this point. I think that he's still absolutely great, not phoning it in at all. He is still terrific in this film, and if this was the last Indiana Jones film, I don't think I would have complained, because he is really good in this.
Yeah, speaking of which, I think we should move on to our final film, because I'm getting tired. We're not going to stay here for 4 hours this time.
No, I know, and to be fair, we've only been streaming for about 2 hours 10 minutes, so it's like, yeah, I do think it does help to move on to the final film, because I have a lot, and I do mean a lot, to say about this one. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. It's the one film. I mean, we all knew as soon as Disney bought Lucasfilms that inevitably they were gonna make an Indiana Jones film. You know, because they obviously made the Star Wars sequel trilogy, so of course we were gonna get an indie film. And you know, there was a lot of intrigue to go into this one, because it's clear that unlike Han Solo, who Harrison Ford doesn't care about, he really cares about Indiana Jones as a character. And, Indiana Jones has always had, like, all his different adventures, from, like, the Fate of Atlantis, which I believe is the LucasArts, point-and-click game. There was, the Infernal Machine, which I think is the N64 game. There's a lot, and of course, like, books upon books upon books. There's a lot of indie adventures. So to get one more, especially one from the director of Logan, was really fun to see. And I think that it was the director of Logan, and it was also the oldest that India's ever been. And I feel like there's a lot of room there for you to delve into, like, okay, he is past the point, like, in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, he had gotten to the point where it's like, okay, he's getting older. He's still in the game, but he's getting older now. And what does Indiana Jones do in a world where, he's like that's moving past him, and, when he wants to keep going on these adventures? This film had the prime opportunity to basically go into, like, what happens, when Indy is past that point, and he is past his prime, and he can't do this anymore. What happens when the action just keeps calling him, and, like, when he still has deep in his mind that love of adventure and that love of archaeology. And that's the task that this film was set with.
The answer was bullshit.
I'm gonna let you two talk about this film first, because I want to go last on this one.
Yeah. I'm just gonna say this because, like, I'm probably gonna... I don't know if I'm gonna be able to stay the full thing. I might have to leave early. I'm really tired. But I want to say this right now. I thought the film was very middle of the road. Mostly because there's just a lot of nothing that happens in it. It is way too long. Most of the Indiana Jones films, at most, are 2 hours. This is 2.5 hours, and it feels like 5. It's a very long film. It doesn't need to be that long, but it's also, like, it's depressing because you see, like, old Indy, he's 80. Like, they do a lot of just, like, showing him as an old man. He doesn't have the drive to go on adventures anymore. He has to be pulled into adventures and stuff like that. But what really got me is, like, they break up Indy and Marion. That was the ending of the last film.
Yeah.
And then they start this film. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, his son's dead, and he's divorced.
So bad. Like, and it's not that
he's retired.
It's not that they couldn't get Marion back, because they did. But, like, yeah.
It's the last Skywalker, the Rise of Skywalker level.
Yeah,
bullshit
this is the Rise of Skywalker of the Indiana Jones films, and it sucks. I just at the start of the podcast, I don't like this one. I think that this film is terrible. I didn't like. I mean, okay, maybe terrible's going too far, because there is a little bit at the end where it was drawing me back in, but by that point it was too late for me to call this good. I would say, like, as my rating for this one was about 4 out of 10, 2 stars. It was just bad. I didn't like it.
I gave it 3 stars, mostly because, well, I heavily disagree with the direction that they went in. I think the concepts were really cool, and I think the way they execute some of it was really good. Like, I didn't like Helena at first, but then when she's, like, starting to work against somebody else and helping find the dial itself, like, she's actually a lot more enjoyable. I didn't like the twist of them killing off Mutt and breaking up, but the way Indy explains it and, like, the emotion, like, I didn't like a lot of Harrison's acting in some of this because he sounds very tired, but it really worked for that scene. And it's just like, you know, compared to a lot of the other stuff that we've seen with stuff, this wasn't fully enjoyable, but I didn't find myself, like, physically, viscerally sick from it. I didn't find myself angry, aside from, like, the beginning. It felt like nothing happened. And I know to Phil that nothing happening is a worse sin than, you know, something being really angry. But if I can't muster the strength to be angry, I mean, like, I've seen films that were so boring they made me angry, which is weird. But you need to watch Roller Gator, because Roller Gator is the worst film I've ever seen, and Roller Gator is so boring that even the MST3K riff tracks riffing couldn't save it.
Look,
like,
it's
so...
like, look, it's like, and okay, putting that to aside, when I'm watching a film and it is so bad that it is, like, you know, that there's, like, nothing's making sense. It's not like it's just an absolute, like, clusterfuck of a plot. Like, at the very least, I can muster the will to be mad about it. It is so much harder for me to be invested in a film, and I had to, like, split my viewing up into this, like, of this film up into, like, 2 or 3 parts, not because I was busy with anything, but just because I couldn't get through it. It was just so boring, and it's
so different because Doom was that for me. Like, granted, I didn't split it over 3 days, but, like, Doom was that for me. I think, like, and I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying, like, each of us has a different level of tolerance for, like, for me, boring is not as bad as angry. For you, boring is worse.
All right, Tifa's said BRB, so she'll be back in a bit. I think I'm going to just go ahead and read, because I was gonna wait for her thoughts for me to do this, but I was just gonna read my Letterboxd review top to bottom, which, you know, I know I've been pulling, like, you know, bits and pieces from my Letterboxd reviews, but, like, I think to help me just explain what really irked me about this film, I need to just read this in full, because, like, this film just made me sad, man.
They completely hated Crystal Skull. Crystal Skull was a good movie. I like the way it ended.
So, like, here it is. Dial of Destiny is the worst Indiana Jones film by far, and it isn't even a contest. Temple of Doom has a lot of unnecessary racism and the worst sidekick of the whole series, but it also had an interesting second half, including a fun climax. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is rushed as all hell in the second half and becomes a film that focuses on plot dumps and gross-looking action above character dynamics, but it also had a pretty fun first half that at least tried to delve into what an older Indy would do in a time that's moving past him. Dial of Destiny similarly has a lot of room to explore what Indiana Jones does with his life as it's coming up on its last legs. And the frustrating part is that it leaves a lot of interesting ideas on the table, only to decide pretty early on that it wasn't going to bother with any of them. Here's the thing that ultimately drags it down for me. I hate stories that waste my time. If you drag your feet on plot points, create segments or characters that add nothing to the movie, or just start something and then never pay it off, I cry foul. Dial of Destiny wastes so much of your time on side characters that are poorly set up, a villain who has a dumb plan and relaxed charisma, which legitimately how? It's Mad Mikkelsen. He should have been charismatic.
They wasted him.
And somehow he's so boring. And overly long segments where we just focus on plot dumps. And that last one is funny, seeing for as much as the film is trying to toss out the controversial elements from Crystal Skull, it's ironic that the one thing it keeps from it is one of the weaker elements. The film ultimately is saved from being scored any lower, which again, I scored about 4 out of 10. I was going to score it a 3. I was seriously saying like, oh, 3, 2.5 out of 10. And it's like, so I was hovering around that area. But the film is ultimately saved from being scored any lower thanks to a decent climax that has a genuinely fun, new and fun way of giving us a twist involving the artifact that isn't just another face melting. And where they go with Indy's character at the end is interesting, and it's the only time in the whole film where it feels like he's thematically connected to the story he had in Raiders and Crusade. But by this point, it's too little too late. By this point, we've already spent the entire runtime with an Indy that doesn't feel all that different to the one we got last time, when in reality, he should have felt different in so many ways. They could have delved into an Indy that who's past the point of thinking that his life matters. They could have had a nice story where he realizes he's still got people who care for him and that they need him more than he needs to die with his work. They could have done an Indiana Jones movie that is uniquely suited to being released in 2023 and that you can tell with an 80-year-old Harrison Ford, and yet they didn't want to. They gave us a glimmer of these ideas and they just went, nah, let's just do a regular Indiana Jones film, and not a very good one at that, given that it is over half an hour longer than the other films, and it does not justify that extra time in the slightest. The visuals are dull as hell, as the picture is muted. Sorry, let me start that sentence again. The visuals are dull as hell, as the picture is given a muted aesthetic that has become typical for a lot of Disney's recent live-action work, which in turn makes the action scenes feel pretty stale most of the time as well, especially when it's at night and they've made stuff hard to see to cover up for CGI. I also tried to get as much as I could out of Helena since I saw what they were going for, but I'm sorry, there just isn't enough of a turnaround with her. She acts awful for most of the film, and then she has a face turn that's way too sudden for me to buy the emotional moment she has at the end with Indy. Maybe they expected me to see her as flawed, but she's got a good heart deep down, like Indy in the original trilogy. But if that was their intent, they miscalculated severely, which is the best way to summarize the whole film. They avoided what people didn't like about Crystal Skull and tossed interesting ideas aside, all for the sake of making the most by-the-numbers, crowd-pleasing film they could make. And it ends up being the Rise of Skywalker of the Indiana Jones films, to the point where, just like Rise of Skywalker, its attempt at being the most crowd-pleasing it could be backfired into being a film that not many people 15 years from now are going to look back on fondly. There are a lot who will stand by a mess of a film that's going for, that's got a lot going for it in interesting characters, story, and themes. And there's even less people who will stand by a film that's boring. And that's my entire Letterboxd review. It's like, anything I could possibly say about it is just written there. I just couldn't get a lot out of the film. It's not as bad as Rise of Skywalker. I would give Rise of Skywalker like a 2 or a 3, because that film's climax is awful as opposed to this one. Like, I hated Rise of Skywalker, whereas this one I just think is a bad movie that could have been so much more, which annoys me. Like, I want to hate it more, but the thing is, like, it's not even god-awful. It's just, this film could have been so much more than it was, and they just went for the most by-the-number film they could, and it's not even a good one.
What they did was be safe.
Welcome back, Tifa. And now that Zen and I have trashed this film thoroughly, do you want to give your thoughts on the film?
Okay, I was not necessarily live tweeting this when I was watching it for the first time, but one of the first things that I realized was, of course, the long running time. Because just like Phil, I was like, wait a minute, why is this 2 hours and almost 40 minutes longer? Why is this? And then I watched it, and with the first moments where we saw like a younger Indy, I was like, okay, this CG on younger Indy does look a little bit better than compared to, say, older Peggy Carter in Winter Soldier. Which, oh god, that CG is not good.
Mm-hmm.
But aside from that, I was making jokes like, oh, Dr. Zola, so you switched sides, huh? Because it's the same actor. It's literally the same actor. From the Captain America films, he just switched sides from, oh, I am a Nazi doctor, into like, oh, I'm actually friends with Indy and I'm against Nazis. And even if this film had that character and also Mads, I have no idea how to pronounce his last name.
Mads Mikkelsen.
Mikkelsen, thank you, because for the longest time I called him Mikkelsen. Mads Mikkelsen, and a brief appearance by Antonio Banderas.
Hold on. Eliza is saying you're way too quiet now. Okay, hold on. Let me bump the audio back up. Discord audio, advanced audio properties. Let me put that on. Let me try 15. All right. Speak, Tifa, and Eliza. Please tell us if Tifa sounds good.
Hola, hola, hola.
¿Por qué?
Keep speaking your mind. Keep speaking your mind.
Okay, so at first I did like the whole like, oh, you got the doctor's daughter being like, okay, yes, I'm pretty much indie, but being like a bitch at the beginning because I just want to sell stuff due to what happened in the past and blah blah. But then I did like the whole heel turn to a certain point because I was like, okay, now she is losing everybody who was from her past, and Indy was one of them, and because I did like that part, but I do have to agree that it feels a little bit like too late. Even before the whole like, oh, we're gonna traverse through time, and Indy wants to stay there because he's like, yeah, the world doesn't want me anymore, because that's part of the movie where he and Mikkelsen's character comment on like, yeah, this world is no longer cares for men like us and blah blah. But I'm like, bruh, you're still a Nazi, asshole. You're still a Nazi.
His plan makes no goddamn sense.
It makes no sense. Like, he wants to yes, he wants to kill the Führer.
To go back in time and kill Hitler and then replace Hitler with himself.
Yeah, and at the point when they were
win the war.
Yeah, he wanted to do this in 1939, which is when World War II started. And it's like, dude, you want to go back to 1939 to like replace Hitler in the era where Hitler was like one of the reasons why so many Nazis followed Hitler, apart from just, following orders, is a lot of fascists genuinely like believed in his stupid ideology. Like, they viewed Hitler as a fucking martyr. Like, they viewed him as the man who will bring them into this new generation, and be like this amazing leader. And it's like, obviously Hitler was a shitbag, but one of the reasons why a lot of Nazis got so behind Hitler was also because they genuinely believed, he's such a good leader, when in actuality he was a pissant. But it's like, you're gonna go back to like try and kill him and like lose the goodwill from those very same followers? Are you kidding me?
And even if you were successful, let's just say, okay, you came in, you had a cloaking device, you stabbed Hitler, you somehow convinced everyone that you're Hitler. Even if that were true, it wouldn't change anything, because yes, a change in leadership could work, but it's not the only reason why the Nazis lost, because Fascism is dumb.
Hey, it's again, the climax was interesting and it did draw me back into the film enough to make me go like, okay, I was gonna give this like a 2 or a 3 because it was genuinely pissing me off in like Rise of Skywalker levels, but that climax was enough to make me go, okay, 4 out of 10. Like, tried something interesting there and I think it mostly paid off. But like, you know, it's not enough to save the film because genuinely, I do love the whole twist of like, you know, I don't know where we're going, but it sure as hell isn't 1939 because like, you know, he thought of, oh, Continental Drift. It's like, you know, things have just changed so drastically, and like, is it an ass pull that they went all the way back to like when the dial, like, you know, was invented? Sure, maybe, but then also it's like, you know, they justify it by going like, oh, the dial just comes back to here. It's not going to take you to like any other year. It's just going to bring you back to this time period. So it's like, okay, you bring it back a little bit. So, and I like how the twist with the artifact isn't just like, you know, messing with what shouldn't be messed with. And even though that was fine for those movies, I do like how the twist was like, oh, like the world has changed so much that we're not like, you know, that in an attempt to go back and fix the past, going back has just caused us to like, you know, go back to like when like how this was created, because you can't go back to the past and like fix shit, you know? So yeah, I do like that aspect, you know?
It's an okay movie. There's a lot wrong.
I can't
There's
even call
some stuff I like.
I can't even call it okay. I just, of all the Indiana Jones films, this is the only one I would out and out call bad. Like, you know, like, leave it to Disney to make the one Indiana Jones film I consider bad. Like,
it's not worse than Doom.
I disagree. Doom made me feel stuff. I felt very little during this film.
Tifa?
It's okay movie.
That's what I said.
Do you want to go into any more details?
I do like the scene where they're on the boat and Indy talks about how if he had the chance to go back in time, he would stop Mutt from enlisting. When I heard that, I was like, wait a minute, enlist on what? The Second World War is so... no. Is it the Vietnam War?
Yeah.
Because thanks to that 70s show, I knew about that. Again, I learned a little bit of this after being bored in history class for a long time until I got interested in it again.
Mm-hmm.
And how much of his father Indy is. How, oh, instead of the loss of his wife, it was the loss of his son, and how he didn't have the ability or the know-how on how to just be there for his wife to comfort her in her time of need, which caused that drift. I still dislike the fact that they purposely had the whole situation of Indy and Marion splitting up and also the death of Mutt. But I do like that scene because it's another example that I've been repeating over and over throughout this podcast that Cinema Therapy pointed out. It's another scene that shows Indy's vulnerability, and that's one of them. Because he's showing how much he regrets not being a better father for Mutt to make him not enlist and lose his life in a worthless war.
Also,
and that's the thing for me. It's like, I don't like the decision. A lot of like the opening 40 minutes are just like, wow, okay. But you get to that scene, I'm like, I like the execution of that scene. I like what it means for him.
Like, okay,
yeah.
I did like the scenes where it's like Indy grappling with, you know, the fact that Mutt is, you know, the fact that Mutt is gone, and like, you know, so I do like it in that aspect, but it's like, yeah, I like it in that aspect, but I don't like how, just the way they went about it, the fact that it's off screen, like, you know, I think flashbacks would have worked, but of course that would require getting Shia LaBeouf back, and they weren't going to do that, so, I also one thing I want to point out. Yeah, Troy says in the chat, not only is it overly long, it's way too expensive. Yeah, this film made 384 million, which would be pretty good for some other movies, but the budget on this film is somewhere around 387 million. So it didn't even break even because the budget was so large and it became a box office bomb when in actuality it still made a few like, you know, 100 million, like, you know, several millions of dollars. And apparently it had a projection of about like 134 million loss for Disney. So it's like, that's gotta fucking sting, you know?
Yeah, it didn't need to be that long. There's a lot of nothing. They could have cut some subplots. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
With that being said,
yeah, let's wrap it up. I think that's about as much as we have to say on Dial of Destiny. Yeah, at the end of the day, I don't like the film. I think it's a waste of time. I think and it didn't need to be a waste of time. But at the end of the day, it's
a skip. It is definitely a skip. I'm not going to say otherwise.
skip.
I didn't like it. I thought it was okay, but skip it.
Tiva?
Unless you wanna say that you actually watched all of the indie movies, then go ahead. Just don't expect much for it. Just look out for those little moments that I've been mentioning.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that I can let you see that maybe it is slightly worth it, but I mean, come on, you have to go through the rest of it.
Also, goddamn, God, the film still looks ugly. I would say that the second half of Crystal Skull looks uglier because of the CG, but this is still murky and muddy and a lot of it's shot in the dark and it has a muted color palette.
And underwater.
Yeah, it's a lot of it still has a muted color palette, which it's you know, a lot of the weaker MCU movies, or even some of the good, even some good MCU movies have piss poor cinematography, and a lot of it also again looks like Rise of Skywalker, which again accentuated a lot of dark blues, and that's another one.
There's only 5 minutes of Tomb. What the hell?
But yeah, that Style of Destiny, which I know is a weak point to end on, but overall, I did enjoy going back through the and seeing the Indiana Jones films, especially when with 3 of them it was for the first time. I did love getting to experience Last Crusade finally and seeing what all the hubbub was about with Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I loved just getting to see the progression of everything. I still had a lot of fun. You know, Raiders and Last Crusade are amazing. I love you know, I love a lot of aspects of Temple of Doom and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Sorry, I've had a second vodka cruiser. And you know, it's you know, and even if by the end it gave us a bad movie with Dial of Destiny, I still had a lot of enjoyment just seeing these adventures, and I can't wait to finally delve into stuff like Fate of Atlantis and and hopefully eventually I'll play that Golden Circle game that's coming out for PC and Xbox. So yeah, I had a fun time. What about you, Zen?
It was an experience. It's been a roller coaster. Half of the films I liked, half of the films I didn't. So it's it was very much up and down, but I'm still glad I saw it. You know, seeing it for the first time, getting to know what the franchise is all about, Crusade and Skull was where it's at for me. So that's what I liked.
Tifa?
Crusade, Skull, Raiders, it's good.
And then
Just Raiders that it takes a little bit longer.
And the other 2, it's the ones you didn't care for as much.
Doom only for the roller coaster aspect, but aside from that, you gotta get through all of the fucking racism and Willy, and it's no, thank you. But we'll see. And
with that being said, I am Philip.
I am Zenith Warrior Princess, the cutest ghost ones.
And I'm your local Mexican.
And we will see you guys for the next episode of the Backslog. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.